go into a consent agreement on those.
What's that?
Usually they don't make you go into a consent agreement with those.
On a setback violation?
Yeah, typically.
I don't know how you deal with those.
We've had a couple of them.
Yeah, but it's usually after they've gone through the appeals, planning board process, right?
No, we did the one up on Stackport. Some we said, hey, take your.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, I will call this meeting of the Durham Board of Selectmen to order on January 24th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all members are present. I have a couple of amendments to the agenda. After the manager's report, 7A will have a couple of oaths to vote on and sign. And then 7B, I'm pulling the warrants out of the consent agenda because we have some additional warrants that weren't available to us when we got our packet. So we'll need to make that a separate agenda item and actually take a few minutes to actually look through them before we sign them. So, but we don't meet again for 3 weeks. So we really don't want to let it wait another 3 weeks before those bills get paid. So we'll just have to take some time in the meeting to review the warrants. So any other amendments to the agenda? Okay. Is anybody here for public comment? All right, Phyllis, come on up. Just have a seat and state your name and let us know what you're thinking.
All righty. Phyllis Brannon, Brookside Drive. As I've been attending the budget meetings, a couple of things have come up that I'm remembering. So I'd like to visit two things.
Well,
I know,
this is
3
not
minutes.
Q&A.
No.
So,
It's statements.
yeah, okay, great.
Yep,
That's fine.
It's statements. So one of the things that I heard in our budget meetings is about grants. And I think it would be beneficial preparing for town meeting that I think Heather may have brought this up already, that a list of the grants that the department leaders have put together and have received and how much we've gotten and what we're spending on. I think that would be good to have an overview for the town as we go into town meeting. So maybe a PDF or something that we can hand out. And then the other thing about ARPA funds, we talked about early on about ARPA funds. I think the same thing would apply, that if there could be an overview of what we have received for ARPA funds, what we've spent it on. I just think it's beneficial for townspeople to see that how these monies are helpful for things that we're using it for that's beneficial to the town and it's not impacting their taxes.
Yep.
So that's what I wanted to talk about.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. For consideration and approval of the 2023 holiday schedule. So in our packets, we have a list of 2023 holiday closings. And Jerry, is this, the town policy has always been that we just mirror whatever the official state holidays are. That's what we do. And so is that what this list
Yes.
is? Okay. And one thing that has come up, Kate, if the office is already closed on a particular day, like for instance, I'm looking at Friday, November 10th, we don't schedule a makeup holiday for that. That's just,
No.
okay. Right.
No.
We've been asked to, and in fact have done that in the past, when, in a softer moment. But I think the consensus was we shouldn't be doing that.
Right, they would
So-
just get that Friday off.
Right, which if we're closed anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I guess why do we need to vote on this?
It was brought up to me that in the past that you folks have to approve the holiday.
Well, 1 year, yeah. Our short timer town manager 1 year thought that would be a
A good thing to do.
good thing to do, and so, but we had never done it prior to
Do
that,
that.
because the policy
It
is
is, right.
whatever the state holidays are, that's what we do.
Yeah, I think one of those reasons was they added a new holiday.
The June.
Oh, Juneteenth, yeah. So,
But it's a state, it's a state.
Yeah. You're
So-
good with it?
does anybody feel the need to discuss this and actually vote on it? I think you're
We're
good.
good?
Yeah.
Super.
Um, all right. So we're gonna have a preliminary kind of an introduction, I guess. Number 5 is
Yeah,
about financial services.
Yeah.
You know, so what? Go ahead.
So in your packet, I got a proposal from Barry Talbot Royer for outsourcing our payroll and accounts payable. And I just want you folks to consider this. Mark Roy, who is the president of this company, will be here at the next selectmen's meeting to answer any questions that you might have with that. And I've also put in your packet the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing it versus keeping it in-house. So take a look at that. When we can talk about some of those things if you want before we break. But I figured this would, be a really good time to consider this. Their proposal to take over the AP and the payroll was $70,000 a year. If we were to hire in-house and get someone pretty well qualified that could do that accounting with salary and benefits, you're looking at pretty close to that cost anyway. And this would give the town a really good opportunity to get their chart of accounts in order by a group of professionals, fixing any issues that might be there, getting our reserves into a financial system. And that's what, I think we're at a really good time. I think Durham's in a good time to maybe take a look at that and consider it.
Yep.
And I will know more information. Mark couldn't be available tonight. He had a prior commitment, but he's going to be here next selectmen meeting. I think it's February 14th to answer any questions in regard to that.
So the only question I had, and I thought this was a really good idea, it's just that his last statement there caught my attention of still needing to have a treasurer on tenure here at the town office. It doesn't take the place of that. So I got a
Right.
little nervous that it doesn't quite offset the entire payroll portion of this. But I think this is a good idea. It gives a lot more accountability to what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
The person that would be sitting in that chair would be doing the tax, basically the tax collector. So prior to this, that person did payroll, accounts payable, and the taxes. So that would relieve her or him, whoever, if you don't go this route, fills that role, would still have to do the taxes or everything. By doing this, we have that body, if the budget gets approved, to take care of the taxes, that sort of thing, and do other things and work that window.
So were you done? Did you have?
yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, I get it. I get
I think
the mixing of the.
So one thing that
Of the
that will be
talent.
important is that we need to have a full option A, option B, full context, all in. What does the cost look like? So, for instance, you say that the cost of having somebody do the payroll and accounts payable. You're saying, well, it's about the same as we would pay somebody to fill with more advanced financial acumen in that position anyway. And it kind of makes it sound like a wash, but it's not really a wash, because we're also saying that there would still be the tax collector role, and that there might be other duties that would still need to be done by somebody in-house. So it's not like a one-for-one replacement, right? So, and there's also counter coverage. So I think like option A or the current state is, okay, what do I think it's going to cost? And that's probably what this year's budget is based on. What is it going to cost me to hire somebody to do all that stuff in-house? Like what skill level, what's it going to cost? And what, if any, and I think you've already accounted for this too, with taking a part-time or a full-time, additional counter coverage is needed, right? option B is if you take part of that treasurer's roles and responsibilities away and pay somebody else to do it, what's getting done for that money, and then what's kind of left behind, and how would that be covered? You know what I mean? Like you need because it's not a 1-to-1 replacement, right?
Well, no, it's not. Window coverage can be taken care of with our IT and
That's what I mean. You got to
Right.
spell all that out, like in a
right,
plan.
and I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, I'm not asking if you
No.
have it tonight. I'm
Right.
trying to give you the heads ups. Like this is
Yeah.
what you're going to have to demonstrate, and it might be okay that that farming it out is going to be a net increase in cost. But if the benefit is worth it in terms of some of the, in addressing some of the issues we've had in that area, there might be worth it.
Right.
So,
And it's certainly nothing that has to be permanent.
right.
Once we do this and get our chart of accounts and everything in order, and I mean, we want to bring it back in house, we always have that opportunity. But to find somebody qualified to do that, when there's a team out there that can do that for us, and probably in pretty short order, might be worth it. And sometimes outsourcing that kind of talent is actually cheaper in the long run.
And that may be, that's why you have to
Yeah.
go through that exercise, right? And then we need to make sure as we're going into budget season or going into a budget approval process is that are you, if for the sake of argument, if we did go down that road sometime in 2023, are you comfortable that there's enough funds in the administration budget that you're requesting to cover that potential additional expense and the expense of whatever, some level of person in that position? Like, do you have the budget to do that?
Well, I have in my budget over 70,000 for that position, plus the part-time are going to full-time.
Right, but if that 70,000 for that position, what you said here, like that entire 70 could go to the contractor, right?
Mhm.
So that still leaves you with a duties that were going to be covered by that 70,000 that still need to be covered by somebody, but
Yeah.
weren't part of the
That was what I was worried about.
counter or part-time thing. You know what I mean? So-
Yeah, that part-timer going to full-time will cover those duties.
But who becomes our official treasurer? though?
I'm the treasurer.
Yeah, and that's a state legal thing. Like the state has a list of roles.
Be-
Like
Right.
by law, even if a town doesn't have a fire department, they still have to appoint a fire chief. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, right.
Government.
Right. Or in the like treasurer, it's the same thing with animal control.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if there's not a dog or cat in your town. You still have to appoint an animal control officer, right? So.
All right.
So this,
Yeah.
so it would, in essence, it would actually free up the person if they go to full-time by not doing this, to concentrate more on tax collection, helping to fill the reports. I mean, we have that body.
Yeah, I understand that. And then I would say you still need to make sure that you can cover what you want to cover at the window, because a large part of your justification for taking that person to full-time was to cover the window.
Right. So, I mean, we've got that figured out with IT people who are on 20 hours a week. And it doesn't really, I mean, and again, as the new manager coming in, trying to figure out all of what's going on, I've been here 5 months, and I believe that the people that work in the IT and the meetings can do that, plus work the window. It's not either or, it's both.
So I would,
Because they're here
yeah.
4 hours a day for 4 days.
So I would recommend that you do, what would a sample weekly schedule and window coverage look like
Yeah.
under both scenarios?
Yeah, and if you want, the town of Monmouth, which is our sister organization, really, they're identical to Durham. They're rural, got the same population, did this exact same thing, hired these guys because they were sort of facing the same thing. The manager was asking, well, why is this here? Why is this there? And couldn't really come to it. So they hired them and they haven't looked back.
Right, and I'm not questioning the value of a contractor for those duties. It's the everything else within the context. It's the because everything's connected, right? It's the we want to make sure we avoid unintended consequences. Because my concern is, and what I want before I would vote for this, want to be comfortable is that, okay, if we take those funds and we use it for this, if we contract out some of these things, I want to see something that makes us comfortable that the duties that remain here there's adequate coverage to do that and cover the window, based upon how you want to do it. I think you may absolutely like have it all there, like in your head, but it's got to get down, on paper. You got to be able to see it. You got to see the plan.
I agree. I want to, because my biggest concern seeing this is the counter help, which has been an issue, right? And so your explanation helps, but I agree with Kevin. Seeing it in writing, seeing the schedule, I think for me would be extremely helpful. Just to make sure.
Jerry, I was on the same boat. I mean, my second thing was an action plan, but my first thing after reading this was, first and foremost, I don't. This is a pretty good idea. I agree. I think it's anytime you can outsource certain activities and it's beneficial, then so be it. But one of the statements in this contract is that once if you no longer need it or the service becomes too expensive, you can get rid of them, right? So my question is, while we are on and while we do not currently have one, is this a company that we can hire in the interim? Like right there, it breaks down to like, let's call it $1,400 a week. Is this a company we can hire in the interim until that position is filled if we elected to go that route to keep us on track and maybe reorganize and get a chart of accounts going?
That would probably be a question for Mark. When
That'd be a good question when he comes to see us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because I can't speak for him and what he's got and how he does.
I didn't know if that
it.
was something you guys were talking
No.
about. I just saw that line and that's what triggered it.
No, towns do, get on and then they get off, so he's always looking to.
Well, I'd love the reorganization and a chart of accounts and things of that nature and essentially working with the staff to revamp those and correct any deficiencies maybe we may have. So,
And then,
either way, I'd like to see almost a third party kind of reincarnate our bookkeeping system.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of value there. I just want to make sure that that the full impact and potential, not only on financially, but on towns, the remaining town staff time and how they're going to be allocated and what their roles are.
Yeah.
I guess, and on top of that, so we're not going to even talk to this guy for 3 weeks. And then even if we loved his idea, you got to figure it's at least a month or two before it's up and running.
Yeah, May.
So what's the plan for covering all that stuff over the next 2 or 3 months?
We're going to limp along just like we have been, right from.
Yeah.
There's nobody you can bring in like on a
Well, we're
fill-in?
doing-
'Cause
we're
you
actually-
had a couple of people that you reached out to in the past, and that said they might be interested in some, like a temporary part-time gig kind of thing.
I don't believe so. No.
I sent you a name of somebody who would.
Yeah. Well, right now with Devin and Kimberly taking the window and leaving lunchtime, we're doing okay. I'm not getting any complaints from people coming in and saying they're not getting the service. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
but I
saying?
mean, I guess I'm talking more about payroll, accounts payable. Who's
Yeah,
doing
we're still
EMV
gonna limp
reports,
along.
all
And,
that.
that's getting done right now as it is.
Okay,
So
all right.
just out of curiosity, just to entertain me with this, who's currently doing the payroll?
Cindy is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Cindy's
Well,
doing the payroll.
I just wanted to make sure.
Jessica was doing it for a while. Well, you're actually
Yeah.
doing it right now.
So maybe in the 3 weeks, I mean, because obviously, I don't know how, it doesn't sound like it's too much of a burden to do this right now because you have some extra kind of temporary basis. But maybe you could see if he has somewhat of a temporary labor force that we could hire in the interim until we figure this, because like you said, it could be May.
Well, how I found out about them was I hired them to do the bank reconciliations that haven't been done since April of 2021.
So there is a chance.
So
Okay.
that, and I apologize, Jessica has been doing it. I just got confused because she was trying to print the payroll warrant, so that's why I was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're,
Okay. So yeah, I like Rich said, just to kind of wrap this up, I think we're all intrigued by the idea and see a lot of value in it. We just got to make sure we've got all of our other bases covered too.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Thank you.
all right.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay. Reports, fire chief is up first tonight.
I'll defer if it's okay with you to Calvin. I think he's had a couple of long nights. And
Yeah.
we appreciate him. The roads have been fantastic, so if you don't mind, that's it. We'll let him.
Not at all.
I can stay anyway. Oh, that's good.
But it was nice.
I want credit for at least the.
Yeah,
He's trying to be nice.
I actually printed for you all to review. You asked for our Comstar ambulance billing main rates. So I've printed those out. You don't have them in front of you, but there's one for all of you. It's highlighted. They don't have town names on them. That's their policy. But I'll pass those out just to add to your collection to that packet for later.
Oh, we don't have them. Okay.
No, those are gonna be right in front of you and you can take those and study those.
These are rates for what?
Those are all the main fire department rates for ambulance billing. So you can see where highlighted and you can see at the bottom what average is, what we do. Again, you asked for more information. That's just for you to take home. A little light reading for you later. As we progress through revenue increases, that's all.
Okay.
We'll skip right down. As I mentioned before, we did get a wildland gear grant. So that's a $5,000 grant. And for us, that's a matching grant. So we upfront $5,000. That's going to outfit in wildland gear 10 members, jackets, pants, gloves. So we upfront the 5,000. And then when that all the paperwork's in, the bills are in, the state gives us 2,500 back to the town, which eventually will reappropriate it back to the fire department budget. So that's how those matching grants are. And that's about the third matching grant for 2022, but it'll be spent now in 2023.
So yeah, it would be allocated back to the fire department budget if the expense was shown on the fire department budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. 2023 vision for us, I've shared this with the whole fire department. I want to share it with you. It's about the members, and now it'll be about station and equipment upkeep. Those are the two high dollar currently bills that are coming. The stations turned more than 20 years old. So we're looking at, hot water heaters, that type of stuff, getting requests for proposals. And then equipment. Our average age is turned 14 and a half years old for the 6 trucks that we have. So some are outliers like the Quint, but some are new, like the ambulance, the rescue, and that's getting worked on right now. So the end of year call volume. So we're up 7.5% for our call volume for last year. That was 521 responses. Not in front of you, 225 medicals. That was 156 transports, 52 motor vehicle crashes. So that's both the fire side and the rescue side responded to that. I had a big one today. Mutual aid rescue. So we provided 43 times that our rescue, whether that's a paramedic or the rescue, transported, and we provided 22 fire mutual aid. You've seen pictures recently of going to Freeport and other places. We're now on the first alarm assignment for Lewiston for station coverage.
Really?
They have, that's new. So that's an increase. They have faith in Durham, the training and the response and the time. And I know Milt's been over there several times, that will provide an engine company to their station right into their city. Again, so that's new. And then if it's upgraded to a second alarm, that conceivably to the scene.
So when we do that, does the city of Lewiston pay them or pay us?
No, so.
No charge?
Correct. So fire department mutual aid is reciprocity. We can call on them at any time. They can call on us. We have agreements with all the surrounding communities.
But we're paying our people when they respond though, right?
Yes, yes. Just like the Freeport fire a couple weeks ago, at any point we can call on them,
Yeah.
and we have, to the tune of 18 times. But that's how the fire department mutual aid policies go. Contractually.
Is it mutual aid though to cover the station while the people in the station go?
It
on the
is.
call?
It is frequently station coverage. So that would be the first alarm station coverage while they handle it. And then we're already in their town. So if there's other calls, we would respond to their calls. And if they upgrade a fire to a second alarm, we'll go to the scene. We're already there. We're already 15 minutes ahead of it.
So how did we, I can't remember the exact term you used, but how did we get to be like, what was the term first to,
First alarm station coverage.
yeah, how did we get so lucky?
I believe through our staffing model, our training, our membership being to turn out 4 or 5 members in a quick response. And I think other surrounding communities, maybe as far as Sabattis, cannot do that. So when you have strong membership and strong training,
I agree. I get what you're saying, but that to me is something different than mutual aid. That's not like, hey, we've got a fire and we need more help to put it out, or we've got a big accident, we need more help. Because otherwise, they're using other communities to provide an overall general increase in their labor force at another town's expense.
you can see it that way, but we use them in the same way. So we've had, as an example, a bad motor vehicle accident. I have Lisbon in my station covering the whole town, Lisbon Fire. I just call on them. They're here. They're covering the whole town because we're run out of resources. So it's the same for Lewiston, regardless of union or how they staff. They have used all their resources at a fire, and now they need another department. And we're not the only ones. I'm sorry, don't let me. When we went a couple Sundays ago, we were sitting next to a Lisbon ladder truck, a green fire truck, and a Wales fire truck. So it's not just us bearing a burden. And if at any time we cannot staff that, we can just say, no, we can't staff it, or we have multiple calls going on in our own town. So that's the discretion of the fire chief. Their model works, and it's the same as us. We only had 4 structure fires last year, but we called on all our mutual partners, and we had station coverage. Same example. And it's not just structure fires. So if we get busy, or again, a motor vehicle accident, or we're taxed staffing and equipment wise, we just call them mutual aid, and they come.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And again, we received mutual aid 19 times, by agency, mostly Lisbon, Pownell, Freeport, Brunswick, that type of stuff. But we received 19 times.
Yeah, I get the whole concept and I get the station coverage.
Sure.
I was just a little, quite frankly, I was baffled by Lewiston being like where it is compared to Durham and so forth. I get areas that are somewhat
Sure.
touching the
And that was everyone. I mean, Auburn was at their fire scene as an example, and they had 3 other mutual aid towns next to us. So we're not bearing the burden. We're part of the solution for
So
that.
Lewiston is probably a pretty big problem if we're going over there.
Yes,
It's not just.
they're all committed.
Okay.
They're all committed.
And Lewiston has watched our camp. How many?
They
days?
They have sent numerous apparatus over the years, and they
Over the
will
years. Okay.
at any time.
No, I get the mutual aid, chief. I just never heard such like that language for say as far as like it
Yeah.
almost sounded like we were now the primary for Lewiston backup is the way I initially took it. I'm like, oh, how the hell we get that?
Sorry, yeah, that's on me. It appears we're at the top of the list for geographic for station coverage.
Yeah, and I can't speak. for-
One of 4 towns.
Sure. And I can't speak for Kevin. My initial reaction was like, are we that because of their surrounding or their touching communities, for lack of better words, don't respond because they don't have the staff?
I saw them staff on a Sunday. I think it's when you play well, when you're a good
Sure.
neighbor, they appreciate you.
Right.
Maybe in times past that hasn't been. I don't want to speak of history, but we have the staffing and the commitment and the training and the equipment to do so. And at any time we can call on them. And here's an example, and we're talking the fire side of things. Today, our rescue was down for service. Okay, it's being fixed right now. We've run several calls today. I've had a Auburn ambulance transport, a Freeport ambulance transport, and a Lisbon ambulance transport, all today with no questions. And again, they're all sort of fire-based also. So they come over at a moment's notice without hesitation, without asking. And when they transport, they don't bill us.
Sure.
So that's the reciprocity.
Yeah, I think if you said, for me anyways, again, I don't want to speak for Kevin, but if you would have said, hey, we're not Freeport's primary and we're not Lisbon's primary, it'd be like, yeah, no kidding. They're our primary too. They're always here.
Yes.
So when you hear the word Lewiston, it's like, well, are we, because of the economic times and so forth that we're living in?
Correct.
I just thought like,
No.
well, Durham's the only cat in town that's going to respond. But,
No.
you know, we like to be a good neighbor, but just like State Farm.
Yeah, I think I probably.
What's good for the goose?
Yeah, what's good for the goose, so, you know?
I think it's fair to say, you know, I probably misunderstood a little because I did, you know, based on how you said it, I thought, you know, it's like we are now Lewiston's number one, and I'm thinking, well, when did we apply for that? You know, like, and why would we have applied?
I was going to ask, what's that pay? So I'm glad I didn't ask that.
We didn't. We didn't.
So
Um,
Auburn's probably their first.
It
call,
is.
right?
And they go by geographic.
Yeah.
And they go by what's called run cards. They've already had predetermined up to 10 alarms, really,
Oh, I see.
run cards.
Jeez.
So when they need 2 engines and a ladder, we just happen to be 1 engine.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, all right.
And then finishing up, just for December, because of the 2 storms, but the department responded to 65 calls for December, 2 structure fires, 4 MVAs, and the 2 storms produced 27 trees, wires, or hazardous conditions. We have a medical control director I've told you about, contracted, and he did a training for us last Thursday. He was in our station for a couple hours doing training for our EMS providers. So well worth it. And last, again, one of those on the radar, we're starting to try to figure out EMS per diem night coverage. So for November, December, January, and almost February, we've had EMS coverage during the day, those 12-hour periods, every day, without fail, holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, without missing a beat. We're starting to think about night coverage. Members have moved out of town. They've been hired elsewhere. There's only about 2 or 3, including myself, EMTs that live in town. So I'm compiling for this next year how many. I've already responded twice and transported once the other night, which is difficult on a 56-hour week.
Sure.
3 hours after midnight. So we're just trying to compile those statistics, how many times the chief has to transport, how many times mutual aid if need be, or that we don't have a provider at night.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a statewide issue now, right? And isn't there some new EMS task force or something being formed to look at the issue almost on a statewide basis?
There are, and I can actually forward that to you, the latest blue ribbon panel on that for some reading. Durham's doing well. We would have the coverage at night, like the day, if we paid or had overnight accommodations. Again, more drawn out discussion for later.
Yeah.
But on the
Yep.
radar.
Yep.
Other than that, that's it, unless you have questions for updates. I will yield the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I warmed them up, Calvin.
You warm out.
Yeah, I warmed them up.
Well, this time of year, not much new. Just, same old, freezing rain.
Plowing and sleeping.
Plowing, sleeping, more plowing than sleeping, but, when I wrote this last week, it was the prior Saturday, we got caught on a morning we woke up and looked out the door and it was raining and nothing was ever forecasted. And, I mean, I was in truck one, came down of a Quaker meeting. I was sideways. I was trying to keep it out of the ditch that way. And then I caught a piece of bare pavement and yarded the truck that way. And I thought I was going in that ditch and that ditch. That's the worst I've seen the ice. Every time I was in the same boat. We were the first one out. And I just happened to be that one of my plow drivers looked out the door and called me. He goes, it's pouring here in Freeport. So I ran out to my door and opened the door and it was hitting me in the face. I said, well, if it's raining here and in Freeport, guess what's in between? So we all got here and scrambled, and that was and that lasted 9 hours. We were here doing that for something that wasn't forecasted. That was so we've been doing that repeatedly. That's what happens when these warmer winters. Is you think that would be better, but it's actually worse because you get the freezing rain, and the freezing rain we have to treat nonstop. We can't ever stop because if we do and it freezes, then our trucks are pretty much immobilized. So we have to stay on it. Whereas snow, we can just plow a few times, treat, and then just plow the next several rounds. And so the freezing rain is very costly. We have been having issues getting the salt because everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's calling for salt at once. We're supposed to get it within 24, 48 hours. That turnaround has not been happening. Everybody's been kind of rationed. So finally, we got salt today, and we're getting more salt tomorrow to replenish our stockpile. So we won't be having to lay awake at night wondering if we're going to make it. So our 2023 tandem axle truck is at Viking Surveys. The plow headgear for the truck didn't fit. They said their excuse was that Freightliner widened the frame and didn't tell them. And I don't care who did what, but you should have known it wasn't going to fit. And they said, well, they're doing what they can. So they were willing to modify it to make it fit, but we would have had stuff sticking way out here. We would have had wing. No, that's not happening. I'm buying a new truck. I want the truck to be what it's supposed to be, not some mongrel. So it's adding a few weeks to the delivery. So we're looking at probably another 3-4 weeks before we get that truck.
They hadn't done any other Freightliner trucks before now, and to realize that.
It's quite a story.
Well, one of my
You've got
drivers
a
said, well, how
story.
come they don't have to change the body then? Because that's, if the frame's better, why does the body fit?
It's quite a story.
But,
Sounds made up, but whatever.
I think,
It's not your fault.
Nobody told it.
yeah, I think somebody messed up and ordered the wrong parts, but so. And continued work on the 2023 budget. I think I put 2022, closing out the 2022 budget, working on the 2023 budget. And, that's about what I got.
Yeah, Rich.
Hey, Calvin, I've heard this salt thing with other towns too. You're not the only one. My only question on that would be, I had two questions. One, how much salt can we hold in capacity as far as our salt shed goes? Like, for example, how many storms? I always, as naive and as long as I've been sitting here, I guess I never really asked. I assumed we filled that thing up at the beginning of the winter and we're ready to rock for the most part for the rest of the winter. Is that a delivery on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis that typically that happens?
Well, this has been evolving. When we first started, the shed was 90% sand and a very little corner for salt. And that has been, over the past couple of years, we've modified that and moved barriers back and got more room for salt. Last year we made a big change, but we could probably, I haven't actually done the measurements yet to see what that new area will hold. I've been actually going to get that done. But usually if we've got 8 or 10 loads out there, we're 240 to 300 yards of salt in there, we're doing good. But I know this year, right at the end of the season, we were over budget. And I know in last year we had bought some the year before, and Said, well, the bill won't be due until 2022, and so we'll get it now so we don't run out, have this problem. And the auditor didn't like that and said, well, if you bought it in 2021, then you have to pay for it in 2021. So I said, well, I don't want to get in that. I don't want to get in that
Maybe when it's
position.
delivered, we get paid. But
Right,
sits
but
on
I-
that. I'm not getting into that either. But
Right, but
no, I thought for the last, I don't know, since I've been sitting here, we kind of made that switch over to salt because of filling the ditches with the sand and so forth. So
Yeah.
I just assumed, wrong idea to do, but that we were stockpiling the sand and buying it in bulk, like we get a bid from GP Cog or whatever
Yep.
at the beginning of the year, and that sand was allocated in there on premise. So that's not the case.
So, yeah, normally we have quite a charge ahead, but just happened to be that we had storms every other day and every other town's in the same boat. And
So by that rationale, I guess my follow-up was, I was going to say, I noticed, at least on some roads, there's some sand.
we didn't have a choice
No,
yesterday.
and I love it. And I gotta tell you, Jerry, I know you're gonna be mad at me on this one.
Well,
It makes all the difference in the world in terms of traction. I'm not a big, I get the reason why we don't use sand anymore. I know we don't have drains, but you know, in those key areas, like coming up Route 9 Hill or coming down 125 to the Route 9 intersection or coming around Dead Man's Curve, I mean, a little dab will do you. I'm not saying make it Pebble Beach, but
Yeah.
it does make a massive difference on those roads when you guys do that.
and I know, like today, I got a call that said there was snow on Route 9 headed to Lisbon. So I took one of the trucks down with a plow and wing. All the guys had gone home. And what they were seeing is sand. They thought it was snow. They thought it was slush, but
Dirty.
it was sand.
It's amazing the difference though, like in the mornings and so forth.
Yeah.
But when I came in
This morning.
came back this morning, I felt like I was driving in Aroostook County somewhere. I was rumbling on snowpack, and that's just, I was horrified. That's something I shouldn't see, but
Is that something we'd ever entertain, is putting it in those high,
traffic areas like
not necessarily high traffic, but
dangerous.
dangerous areas where like, I can't tell you how many times I come through Lisbon and somebody can't make it up the Route 9 hill coming around the corner up to Route 9, or somebody sliding off Cirrhosis Corner, Dead Man's Corner, or whatever, Plumber Mill Corner, whatever we want to call it this week. And the same thing with 125 coming down 125 towards Lisbon, that bend right there. Those are the bigger ones that I see, but I mean, it's just amazing the impact of what a little sand is
Yeah.
as far as traction.
I
goes.
think we'll start using a little bit more on some of those areas that seem to work.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Sure, other people would too, but it does make a difference.
Great. All right, thanks, Colin. Okay, town manager report.
All right, got a few things here for you. The GIS tax maps are done. We got them last week, and the actual link is on our website. So if you
Really?
want to go on the website and click on the link, you'll be able to kind of play around in there and look up your property and click on it and
Nice.
information. So,
Jeez, that was quick.
so that's all. That's also, it's pretty cool. I looked at it. It's pretty neat, really. So good thing to do. So that's complete. So I filled out a application for a grant through GP Cog, and we were awarded $8,000 to kind of look. It's a planning grant to kind of look at Town Hall, Eureka Fire Station, and this kind of area to see if there's anything we can do as far as past walking.
Feasibility study, maybe?
Well, more of a facilities, kind of a municipal center, you know, I mean, this could be anything from, you know, maybe a basketball court for the kids or whatever, or I just got the notice on Friday, so I'm talking with Matt, who's in GP Cog, about what this really is gonna mean, and we're gonna try to come up with a scope of work, just to kind of look at, you know.
So is this work that they do, or is it money we get to go hire somebody?
No, it's they're gonna help us with that money, and George will help too.
Okay.
And it's a non-matching grant too, so we don't have to match. So I'll find out more information about what they plan on doing, and you know, that's gonna involve community input on what they want to see, how this takes shape, you know, rather there's a nice path that connects the town hall to the Eureka Center over to the fire station, and the school's involved too. You know, we got the school right there. So it's really looking at in the ball field. I mean, I look out my office window every day and I see a field of dreams there. Is there anything we can do with that as part of this study to do it. So it's just, I'll keep you updated as it's going, but they did award us $8,000 to kind of look at this piece of property and see what.
Does it mean that they awarded us $8,000 worth of their time? Is that essentially what it is, or?
Yeah, it's a grant, it's a
Okay.
planning grant.
Okay.
Like I said, I'll find out
All right.
more information as
Okay.
it comes in, but that's a pretty good little thing. So just moving forward, so we have about 225 tax stabilization applications in there. And I'll have to get with Donna to figure out how all that's going to work, because my understanding is when they stabilize those taxes, the municipality pays for the difference and we get reimbursement back from the state. So somehow we have to figure out how we pay for that if that's the case. I just want to put that on your radar.
Yeah, well, basically what happens is like, for those people, if whose applications are successful, like if there's once they're frozen at whatever they're going to be frozen at, if there's a town, if there's an increase in the mill rate or whatever, they don't get the increase.
Right.
You know, and then some of that just basically gets spread amongst everybody else that
Yeah.
doesn't have that.
Oh. So
And then
No,
State
reimburses them.
yeah, then the state reimburses it.
I gotta-
Although there are people that are very skeptical about,
right.
because we've seen over the years, the state, they hold back, you know, depending on the government or the environment or whatever, they hold back on revenue sharing, they hold back on school funding, that, you know, they don't, you know,
Just want to keep everybody up to.
and I think there's
on your back burner on-
it's widely expected that the state is going to have to make some changes to that law.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but all we can work with right now is what the law is right now.
Right. And I work
So-
with, Donna's taking care of some of that, and I'll work with her. Then you've got some, and I don't know, John might be able to speak to some of this. You got some affordable housing article warrants in last meetings.
Yeah, we're not
We're not going there
put
yet.
that on the agenda for next
Week.
next
Okay.
well next
Or
meeting.
next meeting,
Yep.
right. Okay.
Because at that point, now, do we have, and it might be worth resetting, so we should have probably proposed draft language on, or at least, maybe it doesn't have to be the actual ordinance language, but in the case of ordinance, it probably does. You know, what the proposal is.
And we
I think
provided that.
George, if I may, George has written that up, and I think there's some of the information I provided at one of our information meetings. And if you've got any comments, you know, we'll take it, happy to take a look at them. So I think the proposed language is in the packet, that 27-page packet.
Yeah, the only thing I wasn't sure of is and we can talk about this in 3 weeks, is that I wasn't quite following the contingency, like asking more than one question.
You want me to take a shot at it now?
Um,
Are they happy to do it now or wait?
We got a lot of budget stuff to get
Yeah.
through, but so let's wait. Let's wait, and maybe I might send something to you via email or something, and
please,
then
I'm
share it with
happy
the
to
board or
answer
whatever.
any
But
questions via email between now and then.
yeah, so that goes for anybody, right? If you've got questions on that, so okay.
Well, I got questions.
One more that I'm adding tonight. So we have this truck, Calvin's truck coming in middle of February. Would the board have any interest in looking at tax exempt leasing to pay for that truck? Meaning it would be paid for over a 5-year period, or can you, because?
I don't think we can at this
Okay,
point
That's
because of
what I
the way.
thought, because of the way the
I think
article.
I think that we'd have to look at that for whatever the next
Okay,
purchase is.
gotcha. All right.
Good try.
0%, can we pocket the money and make 3% on it?
No, but what it would do when you get into it is instead of pulling the 250 out, you'd pull like 50 or 50,
Yeah,
60 out at a time to help with
Yeah.
cash flow.
But then, well, and then it becomes an operational versus
Right.
capital expense, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, we
Just took earmark money and put it into like the general, basically.
Right.
so, yeah, we
But
need to.
but it would definitely help with our cash flow. But anyway, I just wanted to, you know. So, that's pretty much all that I have for tonight,
Okay,
or for my report.
all right. Anybody have any questions or comments for Jerry? Okay, so 7A I added to the agenda. We have oaths to appoint Kimberly Garneau and Devin Garneau as deputy treasurer and deputy clerk. This is required so that they can handle money and voting, voter registration cards or whatever behind the counter and help. They're going to provide some counter help. Take some hours behind the counter, and in order to do that, they need to have these appointments so that they can legally do some of that stuff. So I would entertain a motion to appoint Kimberly and Devin as presented.
So moved.
So moved by Josh. Is there a second? Joe seconds. Any discussion?
Just for the fact that I thought if we were going to appoint somebody, we had to have discussion in executive session. I don't have a problem with this, but I thought that's how we've been doing it.
Well, I think you're correct. You're right about that, but they're already town employees, so it's
Different role though.
different role. Do you want to do an executive session?
Nope, I was just wanting to make sure that we don't.
Just want to get that
I
on the
don't
record.
Well, no, I mean, I just like to be consistent because we got a lot of people in the crowd that like to, not necessarily this crowd, that like to criticize us for not being consistent.
Yeah.
So I just like to keep consistency because I'm a man of consistency and integrity for that matter. So whatever way.
Well, they tend to consistently be wrong,
Exactly.
so.
Whatever way the chairman wants to roll with this, I'm good with this, for the record.
4 more weeks. 4 more meetings.
You're gonna miss me.
All
I
right.
don't know about the other-
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion? All right.
You'll have to sign these before you.
Oh, yeah. So let's put them on the warrant pile. So I pulled the warrants out as 7B, and actually that's what's on here now. So is that this folder?
Yeah.
All right. Let me have those two. So we actually going to have to take some time in the meeting for the members to review this because there's some warrants in here that weren't sent to us ahead of time, so we didn't get a chance to read them. But we're not meeting for 3 weeks, and these are some bills that need to be paid.
It's
So,
not payroll.
That is.
well, payroll only requires one
Just one.
board member. That doesn't have to happen in a meeting.
Okay.
One of us can always swing in if you send us a message. We've done that a million times
All
over the
right.
years.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I have one that's not red.
Yeah, we have one.
I got 2 reds. Yeah, I got,
Jen.
I only got 2 red. Hang on.
No, it's all right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jess.
thank you.
I guess technically, I'd withdraw what I said since it says
all
appointed
right.
by town manager. You're really just briefing us.
Now,
It's not really an appointment by the select board according to this paper.
The state requires the signed oath, though. Jessica's going to do a little research and on the whole oath thing and try to get clarification on what we really have to do and what we don't really have
Have
to
to
do.
appoint I oath.
What?
You appoint I oath. So you're-
You appoint, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, the caption of the heading of this says appointed by town manager. So I was like, well,
So-
technically, he's in charge of personnel. These are
He's
people that are already
directing
working.
it from him,
Right.
appointment by town manager, and then there's another category which would be appointment by you.
Right, that's my point. Like, why wouldn't it just go to you to?
Yeah, well, but there's just 2 different classifications. Like appointment by town manager, he's appointing for you guys to appoint employees. Appointment by you as a select board, like
Committee
concert
members,
committee
so.
members, yes.
Just don't get it. Okay.
I didn't pick it up.
Some of these procedures can be.
I'm not signing it. Just the ones we gotta look over. You know which ones were included and which ones weren't?
I don't.
It's like this consent agreement. Normally have a discussion on that.
What's that, Todd?
It's like that consent agreement where they're too close to the property line. Usually have a discussion on
We
that.
table.
Oh, we're not doing that tonight.
Yeah, and it's close to the road too, not so much another.
Oh, I know. I see that.
A lot of the
Stevie Wonder could see that.
road ones close to the road, like the one on Cedar Pond Route 9.
I tried not to do that, it didn't work very
Well,
well.
somebody.
Yeah, see, that's what I
It
just,
depends on what the issue actually is.
Somebody has to
exactly.
kick it.
We- we-
Usually goes to the appeals board.
we can't just act on it.
This is an appointment to sit on the scholarship fund committee.
Never seen one of them. This is a new one.
Normally, somebody says no, and then it goes to appeals board. You never went to appeals board for that consent agreement?
Well, no,
No.
Alan,
For an after the fact, though?
Okay.
Depending on what it is.
So,
Well, that's initially what I said to Jerry. I said, doesn't that go to Board of Appeals for a variance, basically?
It depends, like every time, like a lot of times have sent me to like a planning board when I've gotten setbacks. But it really does, like you said, like, how did you get into the setbacks? Like, are you in towards, on the road setbacks? Are you on a neighbor's property and he comes to the meeting and says, I'm good, don't worry about it. Then it gets a little different, so every town is different. That
sometimes
one's
you do
close to the
it
road, and the only one I can remember is the one on Cedar Pond
Cedar Pond
and
corner.
Route 9, right on the corner there, there's
Yeah.
a cape. That one was like 3 feet too close to
Right.
one of the roads. And they had to go to the planning board.
this happened when it was built and the codes gave a
When was the
letter
house
of
built?
no action. In other words, so now the place is getting sold and people
See that-
buying it to
see
get
that-
title insurance.
that
and
kinda-
consent.
That kind of changes the story, right? Because, I mean, he already issued a letter of no action. And I get it, like, towns can say, well, it's just a code officer, but I mean, I don't know how they got their initial, like, that must have been good for their closing company, which should be, I would think, on record and filed in the registry of deed, and this should be kind of squashed. We really shouldn't even be.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on. That's not on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, we're killing it. What else?
There's one more appointment that I overlooked. Is to appoint Susan Hardison to the Scholarship Committee. I don't think this one's too controversial. If you want to go into executive session.
Like I said, Mr. Consistency.
So, entertain a motion to, we're gonna be consistent and do the same thing we did last time, about 5 minutes ago. Entertain a motion to appoint Susan Hardison to the Durham Scholarship Committee. She's a retired teacher, having been taught for over 38 years and would like to serve her community.
So moved.
Rich moves, Todd seconds, all in favor?
All right. If we get in trouble for this one, I'm resigning. Instantly.
All right. Okay. Now, consent agenda is now only, is only 8A, is only the, to approve the minutes from the January 10th Select Board meeting. So entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda item 8A.
So moved.
So moved by Josh, second by Joe, all in favor? Okay, 4-0. Todd wasn't here, so I assume that's why he's abstaining. Okay, announcements, upcoming meetings. Budget Committee is meeting on January 31st and February 2nd at 6 PM at the Eureka Center. Planning Board meeting, sorry, yeah, is that wrong?
I believe so. I believe that it's supposed to be 6:30.
Is it 6,
Yeah.
6:30?
because-
I just read the script, man.
Yeah.
So 6:30.
I thought we were having it here.
Yeah.
Because,
That's what
This is why the messenger always gets shot.
What does it say? I don't have my,
It says 6 at the Eureka
oh,
Center.
I just didn't change it, sorry.
So it is
Town
6:30
office.
here at Town Office?
6:30 at
Okay,
Town
thank you, Milt.
office.
Planning Board meeting on February 1st. I'm assuming that's also here at the Town Office at 6:30. Yep, okay. Select Board meeting is actually, the next one is 3 weeks from now because January had 5 Tuesdays. Select Board meeting on the 14th and the 28th at 6:30 here in the Town Office. So next,
That's a good idea.
the next, well, final item on the, we're not gonna need executive session tonight, are we?
No.
Are you sure? Are you good? We don't need executive session?
We passed that one. I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I think we passed it. I think it's down the road.
All right, so really, the only remaining agenda item is select board discussion on the budget. This would be a workshop that for board member and town manager participation. And off we go. Why don't we take a quick minute for a little
You want to do that? That'd
little
be great.
bio break, and then we'll get back in, and Jerry will. So our objective tonight is what is to be basically at the end of this workshop. Hopefully, we'll have what our recommended amount is for each article, and then also how we're funding the budget. Like, what are we using for reserves? What are we using ARPA on? What, and ultimately, so that how much, if any, are we going to use in undesignated funds, like that, and where revenues and all that stuff. So,
I didn't think that was tonight. Okay.
oh yeah, it's on your timeline.
It's on my timeline,
Yeah.
but it was really, usually we don't have we break right into that puppy.
Usually what?
We break right into that. We don't have all this other stuff.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we did. Yeah, that
I
was.
stopped by earlier today. I was told it was small agenda. Because I didn't get the email.
Yeah, these are my best. Yes, at those funds, not guessed, they're pretty good educators.
I'm gonna scoot to the fire station real quick, and be right back.
Okay.
So Calvin goes ahead, he goes ahead.
Are we having a meeting on Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
What's that? How much
I didn't
for
mention
dinner? Tom, I thought you were buying.
Bring the fireball. I'll bring the fireball.
Sure.
You need help?
You got it.
But thanks.
Well done at the end.
Restricted, reserve, restricted.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
People that don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, so I can check that off, I asked you that question.
You have the
It looked like it's fine.
the tax impact, the spreadsheet I do. You have that.
Yeah, I have it
ready to go.
Ready-
Okay,
ready to
good.
go, yeah.
Jack Tupper Memorial Fund, I've never heard
I
of
have
that.
both the operating, the latest operating and the tax impact. They're all updated and
Exactly.
Jack
I've
Tupper
been
Memorial Fund.
this has been kind of, I've been kind of looking forward to this.
Never heard of it.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Just to kind
It's
of
Jack Tupper?
see what your
Yeah.
process is and
He owned
and how
the pit that
how all this
Mike
shakes out,
owns now.
how it's gonna be.
Originally,
Oh, you passed away.
Well, it's a memorial fund.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
yeah.
So Todd, you think someone just gave money on behalf of his name to?
120.
I don't know anything. I've never even heard of that one.
Never heard of it.
It's there.
Is it new?
Bob
No.
Tupper's father. And Mike bought the pit from Bob.
Which one was it?
Hmm?
Which one was it?
Pinkham Brook.
Oh, Pinkham wow.
Yeah.
That's the one on the bridge that they're gonna replace.
No,
In his,
no, that's different pit.
do you think like he had a will and he wanted to donate
I have no idea.
X amount of money to the town? of
Is a
out.
separate Eureka Telecom?
I
fund?
know, and I talked to Ruth today about it because I was trying to figure this out. And she said that,
Telecom.
yeah, she said that we could combine those, I guess. She put a,
With Eureka. With
the capital and the
Yeah,
telecom
okay.
thing, and I'm like, okay, I just spent some time just
Yeah, good, good.
update this. I think it's pretty good. I'm way more like comfortable with the amounts I'm seeing here than, and I followed the auditor's format, so,
Okay. And then what about undesignated?
that's gonna be here in this report. I can tell you what those are. Sorry.
should have done this for Eureka, so I should spread my shit out.
I'm just-
Yeah, definitely.
Sit up front here.
You might actually have it in your book too, but anyway, it's okay.
And that hasn't changed?
Nope, shouldn't have changed. That's the beginning balance of, for this, for right now,
23.
yes.
Someone must have.
Damn.
All right, so did you have a plan of attack on this? or-
I didn't. I think we probably ought to try to, if you want to look over Calvin's budget and the chief's budget,
That makes sense, sure.
maybe Calvin's first, where he's been up.
Yep.
Lack of sleep and.
So one thing I will say is we don't need you to go over everything that you've already gone over in the presentation. All right. And that, I would find that a tremendous waste of time. So I guess the questions to you would be, have there been any changes since the presentation? Like, did anything change? And then if no, then I would open it up to board members for, questions or whatever that they have in terms of that they might have about Calvin's budget.
Jerry told me to keep it flat, so. This is the best I can, this is the best I can do. I didn't leave any ham on this bone.
So to my knowledge, since he's presented his budget, was it last week or a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
There have been no changes
Okay.
that I know of.
Did have one bill that came in from Crooker that I asked if you could put on 2022 budget. It was, because the machinery was sitting over on Patriots Way. That was supposed to have been done in 2022. The machinery was there, but it was part of the 2022 paving line.
Yeah, but was there an expense involved?
Yeah.
What's the,
Yeah, what's the-
$4,200 or something like that.
So we need to add $4,200
Well,
to.
I don't know. I presented the bill and I put a question mark, 2022. It
I
really
haven't
should have been
seen
done on
that
the
bill.
2022.
so let's just ignore that for now.
Okay.
Okay, so there are no changes.
So my biggest question was, is the increase in the paving line, is that really realistic?
We have adjusted because of the increase in liquid asphalt prices, fuel prices. That adjusted price comes out to $331,000 plus in that line is chip sealing, line striping, crack sealing. That's just to keep up with the increased costs of
It just seems low. I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure it's, I don't want to come back next year with you saying we overspent because you're trying to keep it low. If it's going to be more, I'd rather know about it now and then we can.
Nope, that's.
He
been
can if he
adjusted.
stays within the confines of his budget.
Right.
Right.
So I mean,
If I gotta go find a few
Bottom line.
dollars. Yeah, if I have to buy a few less pounds of grass seed, maybe if I gotta go another 3 feet, I'll make it work.
salt, okay, buddy.
I know. I did have one question that I thought of the other day, Warwick, when you were describing what was going on with the pavement of the roads is, so you're picking up what confused me was it wasn't apparent the list of roads that needed to be paved was the same list that we were moving forward with. Wasn't clear to me that, there were roads that you didn't do for whatever it was, 3.5 miles of pavement this year. You only did 2.5 miles of pavement. That So is that other mile the same roads that you had on the list for last year, or is it a new set of roads
Nope.
for that next mile?
Well, what happened when I did this past year is I did forget inadvertently your Hunter Hill and Ada.
Oh, it's
your road.
Well, it was, that's what confused me. I
Yeah.
knew it was my road.
I just thought about
But
it.
I also,
That's
it didn't sound like the list was set.
It was this.
Calvin,
It
is
was
this road getting done this year? That's what
Right. It's the same
Still is
list.
point here.
It's the same list. It just rolled back to you what we couldn't get done last year.
Right, okay.
So-
That was what
But-
just didn't come across in the description. I was just afraid that
I will,
somebody's gonna come up and say,
Right.
well, you didn't do our road.
I'll get
But
those in.
We'll
there.
Catch it when it comes around 10 years
Well,
from
that's what
now.
it sounded like. It was 15 years out. I'm like, that
It's at the bottom of the list now.
Yeah.
They're short enough. I'll get them in there.
But, okay, no, thank you. That was my only question.
Okay.
And I agree with Josh that, pavement, I'm not sure it's gonna go down.
Okay.
It's not gonna be.
But I think it has leveled. It has leveled out from where it was. So.
Yeah, until you have to stop paving again. It's
Right.
like- It's like commuting to Maine in the summer.
Yeah.
The price of gas goes up.
Demand's down right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's.
Any other questions for Calvin?
I don't have any questions, Kelvin. I mean, overall, you can always nitpick a line or two, but I think
Yeah.
overall, keeping the budget and the percentage increase that you've done is pretty commendable considering the times that we're living in.
I agree.
So I don't, if you're comfortable with it, I'm sure the hell I ain't gonna argue with you.
To me, what I look at is you have some big lines that, I hate to say it, but almost seem too low to me. Like, we just talked about the salt, those things, and, my only concern was that you're keeping it low just to keep it low,
Well, you had a
Got a
$26,000.
22% increase in salt.
I added 26,000.
which is still lower than what he spent last year. Right? And we already,
No,
Well,
he spent 126, he's asking for 145.
Yeah, I had to increase that.
Are you looking at the column headers right there, Josh?
my own,
Only 22
No, you're all right.
actual.
His
I'm using,
No, you should have the right one. Oh, wait.
no, I don't
You
have
got
the
the
right
right
one. That's,
Yeah.
that could be my problem.
oh,
There you go.
I have 125 on mine.
The
Thank
most
you.
up-to-date one is the one up on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Which-
That's what matches here.
I'm going by the one on the
You
screen.
probably-
Yeah.
it got handed.
The math was wrong on this one, and, yeah, okay.
Yeah, well,
I took you.
it got updated the day before he did his presentations, and the books were already out. at that point.
Yeah, and Milt, that's as a heads up for the budget committee. There have been quite a few changes since the presentations, like additional bills have come in, and so.
I was gonna make the request to Jerry that if we could update
I-
us prior.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I think coming out of this,
Yeah,
it'll be
tomorrow I will.
updated operating spreadsheets, and then the updated tax impact worksheet with with how we're proposing to fund everything. Yeah, you would be like, okay, this is your starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calvin, I guess for the people at home, I mean, because everybody loves this TV channel so much, you went up like essentially 35 grand, another 35 grand. Could you just give us a brief synopsis of what that includes, that increase since our last presentation?
Since the last presentation, I don't
Or the
think.
last sheet that was given to us for say.
I guess, what do you mean? I went up in
The one
what
that's
I
in
was asking for?
Yeah, I mean, you had an increase in the previous of 35 grand, now we're up to $72,000 increase.
20 of it is salt.
20 of it was
I
solid.
get it.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of bills. You had,
I had a bunch of stuff come in that was still outstanding that, so when it said actuals, those weren't actuals. I mean, there were a lot of outstanding bills.
So did we just change the increase amount and didn't affect the actual amount?
oh, it affected the actual amounts once he got his bills in. See, this is the difficulty of the timing of our Durham's budget.
You were budgeting a percent increase off the actual, and then when the actual increase, it
Right, well, we're,
We
right.
didn't have a true actual on.
Right, I'm trying to get this thing together, and then bills are coming in at the end of December. They're not getting paid until the first week or so in January. I'm already working on the budget because of the timeline, and things just change. I mean, like that in a day. So we may want to look at adjusting the schedule next week to sort of avoid putting out a budget without, if we're really truly gonna go with actuals, we need to make sure that the actuals are complete, and that's mid-January before we really know what they
Yeah,
are.
I think the direction is to actually go the other way and to be budgeting earlier without actual.
That would be beautiful. That's what I'm used to.
Yeah,
Just what you.
that's how the rest of the world does it.
Right.
No, I see it now. I don't typically look at your actual total and then compare it to the new actual total. I'm more concerned with the decrease proposed amount or the proposed amount for the fiscal year, upcoming fiscal year. But I do see that you went from 1.159 to, or excuse me, you went 1.121 to 1.159 on the actual.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. So I guess I follow it. The numbers don't necessarily completely coincide with each other, but they're close enough for me. I guess.
I do think that you can probably expect someone on the budget committee to ask, well, when you were here before, it was a this increase and now it's a this increase. So what
What changed?
changed?
So when we went. to those
We know,
estimates,
I'm just saying,
I gave them
you're gonna
this-
get the question from.
I gave them this updated one.
No, I get it. We get it. I mean, you're under 6% for a total increase. I don't think that's astronomical crazy at all. I don't know.
But nothing has changed since I handed this out at the last meeting and asked people to replace the one in their book with this one. So this is the same number, same.
Oh, that's true. We did get there was another
There was an update.
paper.
Yeah, there was an update. Yeah.
Except for that 4,200. we just-
Right, except for whatever you've got.
Which is here tonight.
Right.
And I.
Which, if you know what it was, I can change it right here on the
It was
fly.
Crooker Construction. for
Hey,
the-
So it was paving?
Yeah, well, it's shouldering, which is part of it. And I just asked Jessica, she couldn't see it on the sheet. So she didn't see it on the sheet.
Yeah, this one, this one does, it matches that. So
Right,
this-
this is the one that.
The 1.15942.
Yeah,
the newest one. Yeah, it's still 5.83. Like I said, I'm still good, buddy.
What you might want to do next year is put revision levels on these, so you know.
Yeah.
Or a date or something
In the future,
somehow.
ask for my old one back before you buy a new one. That's what really you should do. Same with the budget committee. Give me your old one,
That's a
here's
good
your
idea.
new one. That one wasn't.
Well, I think actually, one thing, Jerry and I have talked about for next year, even though I won't be involved in it next year, is to, he wants to go through the process with the board in more detail before it gets to the presentation point.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense because then you get rid of a lot of this, last minute update, whatever, and getting the town manager and the board on the same page before you actually have a presentation. So I think he's got some thoughts on doing
Well,
that.
truth be told, doing it in the process that we were doing in the timing, I've been chasing this every day, changing this
it's
number,
good.
changing that
Don't-
number, and it's,
Don't take it negatively at all.
no, I'm not. I'm just,
You're good.
it's a
Okay.
lot to.
Anything else on Public Works? Okay. I think we'll probably, I think the last few years we'll hold off on voting on any recommendations until at the end, and we'll kind of do it all once we have the context of everything, like what does the tax impact look like? So, all right. Thanks, Calvin.
Thanks, Calvin.
You just anger the crowd or anything, did you? So the fire department, Rich, will give you a new one.
But you have.
You have a new
I
one.
gave them all the new
Okay,
ones.
so-
5.3, buddy.
You have
You on the
one.
same
You don't have
page?
one.
I have one.
Even
Yeah.
with holes in it.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's been just passed out tonight for the first time, which you'll get in an email tomorrow.
Would you like your own?
Where's the paper?
Yeah,
No,
that's really nice.
I know I keep thinking it's 2 pages.
Yeah,
We don't spare any
I tried to
expenses.
cut it in half. I couldn't do it.
One laminated next year.
Oh, you can't laminate it.
Plan. Plan stuff.
Okay. So I missed some of the questions. I have a mechanic working on the rescue as we speak, so I've been back and forth.
Yeah.
Just needs to be.
Basically what we said, like we said to Calvin, you don't need to go through your whole presentation
Sure,
again.
sure.
Just talk about what's changed since the presentation. And in your case, there are a couple of significant things to well, to talk about, right?
Yeah, so for the other board, with encumbering the bills, I had a propane delivery on December 30th. And then I had a diesel the next day delivery, so that was over 2,000. And then on two separate vendors, one found a bill, from October, but it's 2022, all equipment and maintenance. So I am over 8,000 of my allotted budget. So that'll have to be on the warrant. Explaining it, electric, propane, and diesel are up 32% from when I set the budget, and equipment maintenance is up 27%. Again, we had a couple of larger expenditures on our older equipment, not the Quint, but it pushed me in the billing and encumbering over 8,000 from what was appropriated. So because of that, and working with the town manager, exactly of actuals in front of you, we just went with actuals, which increased what we feel comfortable over the 500,000, 522, 470, at a 5.3% increase. Some of those, like the workers' comp, FICA, and Medicare, just like Calvin, that's 14.5% of my budget that I don't see, I can't touch or control. So there's that. Equipment maintenance that we use, that's 27% of my budget. So those two numbers are over 40% of my budget. One's equipment maintenance and one's the workers' comp, FICA, Medicare. Working with Jerry again, reworking the numbers. Those are just paying the bills. The fire department budget, in some of that paperwork, you can go back since 2019, has pretty much been level funded. It's been up, it's been down, but it's been level funded for the last 5 budgets. I was trying to do that stubbornly and wouldn't let go until the town manager really legitimately pulled me in his office and said, hey, we need to pay these bills. Fuel's up, electricity's up, propane's up, call volume's up. That just means payroll and fuel and maintenance is what it is. It's direct correlation.
So the only line, other than equipment maintenance, which you talked about, that's like quite different from actual is ambulance. And I know you said you took 10K from equipment.
We
added to
did.
ambulance. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Ambulance, the original 4,200, that was ambulance intercepts. So that was other paramedics, other ambulances coming to assist us. Sometimes you get charged for that. There was that, the licensing, that type of stuff. So that was woefully under budgeted, that line item. So I've taken ambulance stock. So like an oxygen mask, a backboard, that was always in equipment maintenance. So we took 10,000 out of equipment maintenance and put it directly into the ambulance line
So
item.
it's not for ambulance maintenance.
It's
Ambulance
not.
maintenance is still in
Equipment maintenance, yes. It is literally the tangibles.
Yeah.
Renting oxygen tanks, oxygen masks, Band-Aids, if
Which
you will.
makes sense because better represents the cost of.
Of the ambulance
ambulance,
itself. And
yeah.
that's where we're headed for. That was the
Yeah.
town manager's suggestion. And I think next year we'll button that up specifically. But with increased call volume is increased products. And you always don't get reimbursed for that. And again, that goes into the general fund anyways.
You just said something about the intercepts are separate, they're not mutual aid?
Correct. Today, we had 3 rescues in town, separate times, and they all transported.
Right.
So that's not a bill.
Right.
They bill the patient regardless if it was a motor vehicle accident or a medical. When we call for a paramedic intercept, that's still taking a mutual aid ambulance
Right.
rescue out of service because you're taking their paramedic. So almost all the towns charge you for that. Because in theory, if it's a 7:00 turnover and you take their medic at 6, they're on the hook for overtime, that type of stuff. I've worked a deal with Brunswick Fire that's mutual aid reciprocity. They understand. But other towns, Freeport, Auburn, United Ambulance, they charge. Lisbon is also reciprocity. So they don't.
So I guess what I was getting at is that when that happens, does that get billed out through us? Is that an
No, we-
additional
we-
charge to the?
We
to
eat,
the-
we eat, we eat it. Again, when you bring up Maine EMS,
Yeah.
you
No, I
know,
know it's not-
what starts in a neighboring community that really doesn't have anything to do with us, we get caught up in it. So when they start charging fees for service, sometimes we get caught up in it.
Yeah, okay.
But I have negotiated with other fire chiefs that it is complete reciprocity. But that's why, as you noticed, that ambulance is up. Otherwise, it'll be up 5.3%. I've run the math. Literally just the price of doing business. As I said on that first budget, I think we'll be up $2,650 just in the state mandate minimum wage. So if everything stays the same, those 17 members get an increase of $1.05 an hour times however many hours they produce. That'll be $2,600. $1,000, mandate unfunded liability for a contract with our medical control director, our doctor. These things are just up. As you can see, fuel, so the more mileage, more maintenance, more fuel.
Anybody have any other questions or?
Chief, propane left in that building, what exactly are we using over there? I know we just recently upgraded heating systems and so forth.
Propane fires we have forced hot water in the office, so that's heated by propane. The bays are heated by overhead propane fired heaters, really. I think there's 4 of them. And they're also of 20-year vintage. I have maintenance, not preventative maintenance,
Sure.
but almost everything is propane. Air conditioner has turned to, in the heating, to the 2.
That's electric now, right?
Yes.
Okay. And this might be a question for Jerry, just a refresher on the workman's comp. I know maybe the numbers weren't sent over appropriately or whatever, or in time for the audit. Maybe we just didn't do the audit. I can't remember exactly, but is that number at that 50,000 still hold water? Or is that-
Yeah, if we look up here, here's the workman's comp breakdown right here that we do. So down here, this is the actual bill from MMA. And when you break down fire, public works, and the front office, this is the percentages of that bill that we pay. So let me bring this over here. So Public Works pays 42% of our workman's comp bill. Fire department pays 52%, and then we pay 6% in the front office. And here's how it all sort of breaks down. And the MMA guy came in and shared this information with us. This is our experience mod. This is what drives it. This is your average is 1. So we're 113% above average for our workman's comp bill.
We're
We're working on getting that down. So we'll hopefully see a better number here in the coming years. But this is how the breakdown is.
Brutal.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information in here. Here's our rates based on, you take office employees, we're at 0.338, but firefighters, they're 10.57.
And our problem is not injuries related, but I have 38 members.
and
So
nature
as
work?
Public Works has
Right.
6, 8, 9, I'm looking at 38 exposures, if you will. There's one right there.
So that's the rate per employee, and each employee has codes, and there's a lot that kind of goes into it to drive this number right here.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just wanted to make sure that number was still, because it was, I
Yeah.
know you had put some work in getting that figured
Yeah.
out. I just wanted to make sure that was carried over, that work that you did.
And we get charged quarterly on that, so every quarter, when we get the bill, we go in, whatever that bottom line is, we apply 42.52 to each line in the department. So that should be pretty close. And the one thing about workman's comp too, at the end of the day, the end of the year, they're gonna figure out if we overpaid, then they'll write us a check. If we underpaid, we'll write them one too. So everything with workman's comp's estimated for the most part.
Mr. Chair, that you brought up before, the other line, 5011 down the bottom, sort of personal safety. Budgeted 16,000, I spent 27. So we're mandated every 10 years to make sure everyone gets brand new gear. And we had to order 4 sets of gear this year at 3,000 a piece. That's 12,000. That's just off the bat. That's without helmets, gloves, masks. We're mandated through NFPA on time requirements for that gear also. And it does get inspected every year. The safety committee does that, documented, but, and again, the gear was up 33%. What used to be 2,000 is literally more than 3,000 a set. And it's specific to the individual, so it's measured specific.
Right. It's not like you can buy 5 and keep them on hand.
Right, large,
Somebody to come
medium,
along,
large, extra
right? Yeah.
large. They're very specific to the individual. Now, a lot of times we can get away with, this jacket fits, the next member type of stuff, luckily. Or we just have to keep hiring husky guys, whichever. Again, so that's why that was overspent. Same thing with radios and dispatch. We're
Yeah.
contracted with Androscoggin County and then some of the licensing and whatnot.
The 3502 and 3510 are one of them's for the building.
Yeah, maintenance and repairs. So the building, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
The building, again, a 20-year-old was the last, addition. I had to put in a $3,500 door on the side. It
Yeah.
rusted out, and I'm looking at a hot water heater and some other things right now. So maintenance and repairs. And then I think last year I put in a $2,200 garage door opener that had failed.
And on the equipment maintenance
Yep.
itself, in case the question comes up, you have preventative maintenance and you've got and you have unexpected maintenance.
Yes.
Like going on tonight on the ambulance.
Yes.
So that I take it somebody would probably ask the question of, what's the breakdown of that? You may not-
Each, of course, with the 6 units that we have, the rescue has the highest amount of mileage. It just turned 29,000 to 2019. We're doing okay. A lot of them have low mileage. It's just when you have a 2014 pumper and tanker, anything goes wrong, it gets expensive quick. They're 19 years old right now. We do really well with preventative maintenance. It's tough to foresee. I had a $6,000 bill on springs and shackles on the older pumper. It's tough for me to foreshadow that. I mean, there's money in the budget, but it's tough to see that coming, that's all.
Any other questions for the chief?
And I appreciate the due diligence, because again, the budget committee does their due diligence, and it just helps me with the townspeople
Yep.
to prepare for it. And again, with Jerry's help, it really convinced me to try to do actuals and pay the bills. It's tough.
Well, I told Calvin, I'll tell you the same thing.
Okay.
I think you did a great job, same with Calvin. I mean, maintaining a 5% lift in this economy is pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been 13. It was 7 last year, 6 according to federal. I looked it up today, charts. And we've been level funded, sort of.
That's commendable. I mean, that's a great job.
Pig-headedly.
That's really, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jerry, I want to just, start at the far left and start clicking through them.
Yeah.
It wasn't the update.
Um,
Oh, you got one?
Do I have a new one or I'm all set?
This is the new one, right?
The one you did.
So this should be unchanged for the
This
most
is
part.
unchanged.
This is unchanged?
Should be.
Okay.
So
Dependent.
administration is where has the biggest increase versus LY here. Um, I think there's, if we were gonna bullet point out the, kind of the reasons why, I think one is taking a part-timer to full-time.
Yeah, that's one
That
of the biggest
position.
ones, yeah.
We're budgeting more money, whether it ends up being a contractor or a direct hire, we're budgeting more money for the treasurer position, correct?
Right. So these two right here,
Yeah.
these two items.
Yep.
There's,
And it,
yeah, go ahead.
and it looks like the code enforcement salary has gone way up, but I'm not sure what the other code officer, I mean, that's what they had in the budget, and this is what he negotiated, is that 55A. That's when he came in, and I think he came on in May of last year. So this is, he's actually making 54,808, but he gets $1,000 stipend.
Oh, for not taking
You're
insurance.
saying this is the salary
mileage,
for
yeah.
the year.
That's the
that-
budget,
And he was
yeah.
only
Yeah,
Well,
there for 8 months.
I don't know why the budget for 22 was that number, but the
Right.
actual being low makes sense because we were without a code enforcement
Yeah.
officer for
Right,
quite a
yeah,
while.
so.
So
you look, if I pull the budget out of Trio, that's
the number.
that's the number.
yeah,
So
Interesting.
it looks like it's
Almost like-
much higher, but he's been making that since
Right.
May
It
of
was almost like
last
somebody
year.
backloaded the budget.
we can't even begin to guess what people were thinking when they loaded to
Right,
22
yeah, that's
budget in a
right.
trio.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, this is not how we discuss it at town floor. It's an
Right.
Right.
article total thing. So
Well, just that
So the
discussion.
the big items are the deputy tax collector, treasurer, trying to fill that position. I have it in at 50,000. That still might be a little low. I did look up, the three. What I looked up in MMA was finance director, treasurer, and deputy treasurer for towns that were very similar in population to us. And if I take the average of those three positions, it's right around 54,000 is what they give. The finance director kind of skews that a little high. The deputy treasurer kind of skews it a little bit low. So the average is right around 54. I put 50 in there with the family plan because we don't really know if we hire this person, if they're going to take the family plan or the single plan.
Yeah.
The single plan is 11,300 or something, 11,320, and the family plan is 24,500. So that if they take the family plan and I can get someone in and pay them that, you're looking at 74,000 in that position, salary and benefits.
So, what's the CEO stipend for?
Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
that's
he
the-
gets,
okay,
yeah, he
so
gets
that's
about roughly about 1,000.
Okay, all right.
yes.
We kind of worked that one out.
Yeah.
And then the other big one is we have this part-time deputy clerk right now that's that was hired prior to me coming in to work about 10 to 15 hours a week. I'd like to bring her on full-time, and that's what what that position salary would pay at 36 hours. And then if that person were to take that position, she's indicated that she would need the single health care plan. So it's really those two positions really that are jacking up the cost of, and then of course mine puts compared to, it adds a little bit to it too. So between my position, the half-time going to full-time and filling the deputy treasurers, that's the increase in the administration budget that year that we're looking at.
Professional services contingency, that's a new line, right?
Yeah, where did I put that?
It's down towards the bottom.
Yeah, I did because where I come from, there was always a contingency line because you have unforeseen things that you just don't know that you might need to have. Now, mine was more of a professional services line in my municipality, and if I needed it, it was there. If I didn't, it just went untouched.
Yeah.
I
agree. I mean,
I think, in the other budget meetings before, I was, pretty adamant that you fund the position and not the person. And having discussions with Kevin about that, I can see the point of actually putting in the actuals of what they're taking, but have that contingency because, the clerk could come in tomorrow and all of a sudden say, she didn't have to leave. She could say, I need insurance because of something happened in her life. I don't know. And if we don't have it in a line somewhere to pay for it, I don't know what we would do in that situation. So I guess in a contingency line, it would be better because it doesn't mean we need to use it. If that
right, doesn't mean you need to use it, and that was true anyway. It makes the year to year, like, what did you budget? What did you actually spend? What are you budgeting next year? If you constantly, like, if somebody was always taking single, but you always budgeted family, your actual to budget is going to be way off every year.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you don't know, like in the case of the deputy clerk, absolutely the right thing to do to budget for family because you don't know. But what we talked about was, keep the contingency dollars available in the article, but pull it out into a separate line so that if you do run into that scenario, you have funds to fund the family insurance, whatever, if it needs to. Or if something else happens within the administration article, you have it. You have a small amount of money there. What is that, like a percent, less than 1% of the budget, or 2%? I don't know, whatever that computes to.
It's like 2%.
Yeah, which is just, it's responsible budgeting, and I think it's been very, I think it's been very short-sighted of the town to not be more supportive of contingency type amounts in the budget.
I like it labeled as just contingency fund. Professional services, to me, I always think of like legal, which we have, or I see professional services
agree.
more in line with like Calvin. I need an engineer for an unexpected project, and it's going to cost us $12,000 to get this engineered. I think it's more, in my opinion, just a contingency fund more so, because if you don't use it for a professional service and you use it for something of the example that you gave with like somebody leaving and having, well, that poses questions.
So, so here's an example. I had to hire someone, or I felt like I had to hire someone because our reconciliations weren't getting done. Didn't really have a line for it, so I took it out of the legal line. And then I think that passes the straight face test. So that's why I kind of had a / contingency in case I do get in a situation where we do have to hire someone.
Well,
But I would increase the audit line, something like that, if that was your concern.
or make the legal
Or
line
legal.
legal / professional services.
Sure.
And then, but I agree, contingency should just be
Contingency.
generic.
Yeah.
It's OS fund.
Yeah.
Oh, shit fund? Is that what that is?
That's what that is. I don't know if we can say that on air.
I didn't know
because
if
the FCC's.
I don't know if that was the
too.
technical term.
Never mind the FCC of Durham. I was concerned with the feds, so I didn't want to say it that way.
Yeah, bring them on.
So one thing
Or on YouTube.
for some reason I'm confused. Are all of the positions up here in the aggregate funding the position? Forget the people.
Yes.
So all these numbers represent a full family plan for
No.
medical?
No.
All right, well, I'm
No,
asking on
no.
purpose because we keep on going back and forth.
Okay,
And so I think that you're either gonna put it down, I agree with the contingency, either put it all in the contingency or put it all up here, don't do both. Because
I think that's what he's done.
I don't believe so, though.
I think
because
the only thing up there is, with the exception of deputy tax collector, which I think.
Which is a new position,
Which is a
but
new
put that,
position.
but then we might wanna spike that out, that could be, you know, I mean, I don't know.
It's,
I guess
it's, you have a position that's unfilled.
Maybe it's just the explanation that's been confusing to me. We
I
keep on
could see
saying
that.
that we're gonna fund the position, and then we don't, and then we talk about the contingency. It's confusing.
So, I mean, I got another form that's out of date.
It's either,
Doesn't
oh,
match up.
because
Am I missing something?
If you're
Again,
using the original book that you got,
Yeah.
then yeah, that's,
here,
where did the other one?
I believe there's been, I believe Jerry sent out updates and there's been.
there's been updates.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Usually every year, the original book is shot after the first night.
Well, I mean, to me, I
just got
can't
mine,
print this
so
stuff
mine's
out.
Yeah,
Right.
let's see if I can print it out for you.
But
I agree with you. There is some,
I'm.
So can I summarize
I
it
just
for
don't want
you?
us to get confused,
Right,
you know,
so-
later.
Originally, when he presented the budget, he was putting
I can look at it, that's fine.
full family,
Yeah.
budgeting full family at the top section there,
Yeah,
whether they were taking it or not.
that's correct. Yeah, I remember that.
And
Must have dropped it or something.
there was some discussion about that during the presentation. And then Jerry and I had some follow-up discussion and we thought that, you know, so the reason that you're doing that is was really, because you don't know, something could change, right?
And
So
that's
it's kind of like,
totally valid.
you're kind of building in your contingency
Right.
at like row by row. So, but now I think after we've talked it through,
It's coming.
now if if it's a new unfilled position that we're budgeting for, we're budgeting for family. And otherwise, the only place where family rate shows up in the budget is if they're actually, that
Taking
person is actually taking it.
Right, okay.
And then there's some money in that contingency line where if something changes, then there's money there for it. Now, that amount of contingency probably doesn't equal the total of all the extra dollars that were budgeted up top.
Well, it won't equal the dollars that you could possibly expend if everybody had a change of status.
Exactly. And it doesn't need to. And that was one of the points
Right,
earlier,
I
is that you
get
don't
that.
need to
The
contingency
whole thing-
everybody.
No, right, I get
Oh,
that.
no.
I get that. But I guess that's the way it needs to be explained, and that's the way I haven't heard it. So when you get to explaining it to, like, say, other folks, you say one thing, but it actually comes
Well,
out
and it's-
on paper as something different.
Yeah.
And that's what's confusing about it. It can confuse the
Joe, if we,
common folk like me.
Well, the only, it's really just a matter of making sure the budget committee understands that.
Right,
Because
no, I get,
it's,
yeah,
um,
I get that.
so
I'm just,
if we could just go right down the 23 manager proposed and you look at the benefits, you like the town clerk, 1007, the proposed is actually what she gets is the $1,200 because she doesn't take insurance. The 1010 is the 24/5 because that position is unfilled and we're just assuming that if they take the family plan,
Yep.
that's
So maybe you
there.
could take the family plan, so you
Right.
got a budget for that.
Yeah. So then you come down to the CEO 1019. He does not take insurance, so he's $1,200. That's his benefit for insurance. If you go down to the,
I gotta, hang on a second, sorry, I got a stupid question. Are we actually allowed to publish that publicly? That what people take for benefits?
think so.
um,
I didn't think you could.
we're assigning it, we're not assigning it to
No,
an
but when we
individual.
talk about it, we say she
know-
or he or they or whatever. I'm
You know-
just, I'm being
Yeah,
a little.
I don't know the answer to that.
And I
Being a
think,
little anal about it just because people get.
I mean,
hung up
everything
on this
about
and
what,
get
everything,
way off
it's all
track.
public record, I believe.
It is.
it is,
So, okay.
but from a budgeting standpoint, though, I think really that there should be a wages line and a benefits line and not have it
Yeah,
single
I think that's
out.
what you.
I
I
think,
think that's the direction we need to go in.
right. But I think, yeah, just call it what it is, that, that's what's currently, so we can put the math together later.
Right, there can be a separate sheet. If people want to know what people are making, we can keep it separate, but for budgeting purposes, it really, for accounting and everything, it should be
Okay.
administration wages. And there's really three types of wages: regular, overtime, and part-time.
Okay.
And that's how they should be categorized. Benefits, health insurance, dental, whatever it is. And, and I think we need to move into that for budgetary purposes only. Yeah.
I think your budget overall, I get it. The only question I would have, and it's not, please don't take this as I'm not for it, but in regards to the part-time deputy clerk salary and going to full-time, 36 hours, would it be much more economical being, I don't know what the municipality's cutoff is for quote unquote full-time. I'm sure it's 32 or something of that nature. Being that you are having now two people that are working part-time for us also mandate that to just make that also a part-time, maybe a 25, 30-hour position. So the benefit package is somewhat reduced, not available for that.
Which position are you talking about?
I'm talking about the part-time deputy clerk salary.
Deputy tax collector or deputy?
No, he's talking about.
Oh, the one he's highlighted. Oh,
The
okay.
the one
yeah.
highlighted in regards to it's kind of a quasi new position, I guess.
Well, it's the one going from part-time to full-time, right?
Mhm.
So we should probably change the label on that.
Right.
Deputy clerk.
Just put deputy clerk.
Just take that off.
Yeah, my only thing, like we talked about earlier this evening, I know it's two conversations, but it just was fresh in my head. Like we have our IT people, for lack of better words, working the counter now for lunchtime and stuff like that, which would mitigate some of those hours, I would think, and that would alleviate that being a full-time position.
No, I don't think so, Rich, because there's other things that full-time position will need to do as far as helping out at the counter, helping Jessica. See, when I gave you folks the information on who was working in these towns, and it was the employees for counter help, that's just the counter help. That's not the clerk and the treasurer working the counter. So our clerk and treasurer are working that counter. They don't have that help. We don't have that luxury of having additional counter help like these other towns that have populations of 4,000.
Sure.
So a lot of the reporting and stuff that Jessica's trying to do and the treasurer is trying to do isn't getting done really well. So this would help her stay at that window so they can do that. Their vitals report, their inland fisheries report, their BMB reports. And
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying, and I completely understand. I was just trying to, I get that approach and that rationale. If, like, for example, we did outsource that position per se, I could understand 100%. But we're talking about 4 hours and we're already substituting some other folks, or essentially 5 hours a week, making somebody full-time versus part-time,
if we outsource it.
or either or is what I'm getting at. It's an assistant position.
Right, because if you don't, you'd only have two people working that
Yeah,
office.
I guess I know this is. I don't want to go down this drum tonight, but I think eventually, at least, and it's not going to happen this year, but we need to somehow figure out productivity for this town. Like, how many man hours does it actually take? Because I don't think anybody knows. How many man hours does it take to run this desk, and how many? Because we were open for Wednesday for a little bit. Now we're closed back on Wednesday, but we're still working Wednesday. So that should increase productivity tremendously from an office hour standpoint without interaction with the people. And then we also now close earlier on Fridays. And this is one of the questions that's been posed to me a couple times since this has been presented.
Mhm.
So I don't really have a clear answer for that when people
Right.
ask me that, but you may want to develop one because that question's coming.
Yeah, and I'm still monitoring the whole
Sure.
structure in here and what folks are doing, and because that was one of my questions is, we're here on Wednesday, but we're not open. What exactly are we doing? And when you're not open on Wednesday, then you get that big rush on Thursday. And that would, if you open Wednesday, that would kind of level out the increase on Thursday.
I think that's what the thing is. Like you've decreased the public service time, like time available to the public.
Yeah, we're
I
open.
want to increase the amount of
Hours.
hours used, but there's really not a plan of, hey, by the way, we're also now going to be open Wednesday. We're
Yeah,
also going to be open a full day Friday. I mean, I
Yeah.
think if those were encumbered in the conversation, then maybe people would understand a little better, because it is a pretty big increase on this budget.
20, we have counter hours of 27 and a half counter hours open.
I get it. Yeah, right.
You know, there's no other town that has that little bit of hours. They're all open like.
Well, I mean, you got to
32
take counter hours divided by
32.6.
and multiply by hours worked, the people working the counter.
Right, well, counter hours and staff hours is two separate things, right?
Correct.
Right.
So to run that counter, we need at least two additional hours onto that, just to run the counter, because you come in, if they're open 4 days a week like they are now, they come in 15 minutes early, take their coat off, go to the bathroom, get ready, get set up and go, right? So there's 15 minutes. On the backside is another 15 minutes to cash out their draw while the door is locked. And sometimes cashing out that draw takes longer than 15 minutes, because if the cash doesn't check out right, then they got to figure it out. I mean, they were in here the other day for 45 minutes trying to figure out why their cash wasn't matching what was in the system.
So you just said 4 days a week times, how many hours is everybody here about?
Well, the deputy treasurer is here 36,
Counter, just counter.
27 and a half.
On the counter.
27 and a half, so that'll
20
be
that's-
like 8.5 hours per person of just their regular job duties per week. Is that what you're saying?
So
If they're doing
that's
27 and a half hours.
a little over 2
working
man
36.
years of people. That's 5,700 hours. You divide it by 2,000, you get, about two and a quarter man years. So you need 2.25 man people here for the year to go and run the counter, is what it comes down to.
Just for the counter.
Just
Just
for
for
the
the
counter.
Right, and then what you gotta do is do the same calculation for your treasurer and your clerk and your other positions. And then that comes out with your manning plan for the year and the number of
Right.
hours that you need. Then the positions can fit into 5,700 hours for the counter, 2,000 hours for the CEO, so many thousand hours for the deputy treasurer. And then you end up with the number of bodies you actually need behind the counter and in the office for doing the respective jobs. It's just how we do it for, planning out how many engineers I need on a project.
Yeah.
And it's just a simple calculation, just split it out that way, just for future.
Yeah,
I mean,
And
I
then
just
it's
gives
then
clarity.
it's easily
Just gives
explained,
clarity.
yeah, it's
That's
very
really-
clear. And
I'll have-
that's why I'm saying I need this person for 36 hours a week. It's because I really need them for 36 hours times 52 weeks is.
That's a great
the number.
example of when I talk about put it down on paper and show the work basically, because anecdotally saying, well, we need somebody for lunches and it gets busy at this time, so we need more people at this time.
Well-
That's not gonna.
Well, it's the lunches is just so they can take their lunch because they need to.
It's
by
just an
law.
example, Jerry.
Right,
It's
I
just.
But everybody needs a lunch.
Right.
Yeah, we just need to, for me, I always call it, we just need to establish a productivity level to see what we actually need.
Yeah, that's the same thing you're.
Yeah, and I don't, some people have suggested the, man-hour counts at the counter. I think that's ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous when a selectman first proposed it, because
To mandate it, you mean?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
because
What?
they wanted to have somebody stand there and count how many people came to the counter in a day. Do
Oh,
basically
yeah,
a
no,
time
that's
study
yeah.
of the counter.
They want you to get a deli pull cheat, buddy, and pull the deli slip.
But what
Yeah.
Joe's talking
The
about,
problem is inconsistent.
right? Well, exactly. So what Joe's talking about though, mate, is you have to make some assumptions. Like
You
for
do,
instance,
you
when
do.
you say,
It's an
we
estimate.
need 2 people, 2 point whatever people for the hours at the counters. Well, are you assuming that you need to cover those hours with 2 people at all times the counter's open and they don't do anything else,
Right.
you know, or what
Yeah.
percentage of their time
Right.
do you think they do other stuff?
I agree with that. I think, long story short, I think we need to figure out the actual before we try to decipher the
Yes.
variable.
Right.
That's-
We don't know the actual, what the town clerk, how many hours is requested for just town clerk, doesn't get off her seat, doesn't touch the counter. How many hours does so-and-so need in chair number 2? And how many, we need to know those and then we can work on the variables.
And,
We don't know the actual.
and that too, though, is also on any given week and any given time can fluctuate big time.
Of course, but you get it, you
Well,
gotta
the month should
start,
be
you
an
gotta
average.
start somewhere, right? It's not like,
Right, well, right.
you just kind of average it, and it can be like you could ask, like you ask a town clerk, say, okay, if in a perfect world, how many hours of undisturbed, like desk time, like not going to the counter, how many hours of desk time in your week do you think you need to get the job done?
Right.
So like she might, if she's working 32 hours a week, she might come back and say, I really need like 18 or 20 hours a week just to do my town clerk stuff. And then that leaves 10 or so hours that available for the counter. Okay. Do the same thing with the other
Have a man year a year.
project. Yeah. With the other person, whoever else is in there, so maybe they say, okay, I could do 20 hours a week on counter duty. And then it's like Joe had said, okay, my total need is like 2 full-time people working the counter. Well, I can get a half from her and a half from her.
Right.
So I still need 1 point something,
Right.
Exactly.
so.
Yeah.
Exactly the calculation.
Yeah.
If you want to help me with that calculation.
I'll be happy.
You're the man for the job, Joe.
Right. But
I'll have
another,
some Microsoft project.
So
before
we
you-
And it
don't know the
dovetails into
engineers.
all that work. That's going to help with your. That's all part of what I was talking about earlier, like documenting the need and what it's going to look like with or without contracting.
Yeah.
Because the contracting out changes all those hour equations because it changes like how many hours need to be done for a certain task if the task is not here anymore.
yeah,
But it also gives you a good litmus test of if the guy outside is taking double the amount of hours that you could do it inside. You're like, all right, what's going on here? Why is this taking you so long?
Right.
right.
You can use it. You can actually spin it on
Right.
somebody, which they hate me for sometimes. Like I only have 5 guys, and you want me to do 8
It's
guys worth
important
of
to
work.
establish a baseline on the actual, and then you can vary out the variables, because you don't really know the variables until you figure out.
And some are, and keep in mind that the most experience we have here right now is a year and a half. So a lot of things they don't even know.
It's just about the hours at this
You know.
point, though. I mean, you can put a factor on that, like
Yeah.
efficiency and stuff, but but it's about a raw hours calculation.
Yeah.
And then once you get that, then you can make some adjustments. You can say, the staff is so inexperienced. I'm gonna need a little bit more overlap than we might normally need. So we need to kind of up our estimate here.
Yeah. And again, too, another good set of data is looking at other towns in the same situation and
Yeah.
what are they employing. So
Yeah.
The problem is the
You know what,
historical
though?
data here.
This is not about what other towns are doing. This piece, it's about what do you need in these 4 walls to get the job done. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's like, what do you need? What needs to be here in terms of hours to be open however many hours you want to be open, and to get the tasks that need to be completed done in here. It doesn't, for that piece, it doesn't matter what anybody else is
That
doing.
way you back into the number of people you need
Yeah.
Right.
against the hours that you know it takes to do it. And I know things are still in a little bit of flux and you're still learning what's going on here at the windows and stuff, but I think you probably have enough to almost back into it at this point with a little bit of help.
yeah,
And then it makes it more palpable to go and talk about these positions and say, all right, I really do need 36 hours of this type of person, that type of person, or whatever. Then you'll have it down on
Right.
paper. You can just bang it out,
right,
and it makes it more sellable.
right. like the reconciliations
Better word.
with the current staff that we had, the reconciliations weren't getting done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that.
You know,
Yeah.
so there's a law, and again, one of the employees back there is 6 months old. They're still learning.
Yeah, oh,
You
no.
can't hire someone 6 months old.
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
You know what I mean. So
Yeah, no.
we're all really trying to figure out the whole.
You can then, like, adjust the numbers like Kevin says to say, all right, well, I'm gonna need a few more hours here because this person is.
Just new or
Is
whatever.
new
Yeah.
and doesn't know it as well as somebody who might have 10 years experience, right? So.
So I want to bring it back to the budget.
Yeah, let's get back
right?
to it.
So,
Sorry.
because it's all relevant,
Yeah.
because, so we can look at this and like, we could make it out, geez, well, I don't know if that line for this position makes sense, or if another one, I think here more than anywhere else, I think we need to focus on kind of like the total pool of funds that he has available.
Yeah.
And because we don't know if it might be contracted, we don't know, we might, if we don't contract, what we might find for a, finance person. So in some ways, I mean, I think this is one scenario, right? But we don't know what the scenario is actually going to end up being. So I think the question before us is, do we think, that the request is a reasonable request given the objectives of more hours available in the office for counter service and some other tasks, and also the upping the skill level, whether it's contracted or brought in house, in that finance treasury position or function, I should say, not necessarily, might not be a position.
I just have a question. Are you advertising for the open position in the office right now?
No, I have a job description that's 80% ready to go if we do decide to.
And so I guess, how are you advertising that position with this conversation we're having about having outsourcing some of that work is I guess.
So what's the question then?
So how are we advertising for this position? And then at the same time talking about outsourcing some of that work.
I will advertise that position as a deputy treasurer, tax collector.
Why? Why would you? What with more finance? I thought.
Hoping to get somebody with more finance. I don't. With casting a net with that, I mean, I can go the finance officer type.
I thought that's what you were budgeting for.
No, this is for a more qualified deputy tax collector treasurer. That's out. That I'm hoping that's out there
Okay, so
Instead of outsourcing.
instead of outsourcing. So I put a 50,000 because and 50 may be low.
I actually think it may be low,
Yeah.
but I also think that there's maybe enough money in other lines that in total you'd probably be okay.
Especially if whoever comes and takes a single.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Um,
But it really is that fine line between, how should we advertise it? I mean,
I think you
finance offices are gonna,
I think you have to determine, what do I need,
I need in it, right.
and advertise for in budget for what you need.
Mhm. Well, if that's the case, then this is gonna go up even more. Because a finance officer, to find one for 50 grand is gonna be the hiring pool out there is tough right now. It's hard to get,
So by that,
this is exactly why Greenville and the town of Monmouth went the direction they went in.
I get it, but so by that rationale, what do you think that would?
Like I said,
do you think you're talking another 10,000?
yeah, you're gonna pay up around 60 grand for someone that really knows the accounting side of the house.
So I guess I'm confused on why you would, if you don't think a deputy tax collector treasurer is gonna meet the needs, why why is
Well,
you budgeted that way?
But I don't know that until I cast the net. You might get someone out there that's very good with it. I don't know. And I'm trying to keep the budget somewhat in check.
Well,
You know, I mean, we can throw more money at it.
no. I think you could. Personally, I think you should actually. I don't think we should be waiting to advertise for the position.
Okay.
I'm just putting this out to the board. I think because you might have somebody awesome come in. I mean, you never know, right? I mean,
You don't. It's unlikely.
you might
you'll
know,
have-
and you can be honest with the person. Say, look, if it gets to the point where you interview somebody, you could say, you can be honest about we're looking at, contracting it, or if we can find the right person, we'll bring it in house. You can just be very honest about that.
Mhm.
But I think if you I think maybe there's a way to word the job posting so that it's that it casts a wide net. You're looking for financial expertise. Right? So in a municipal setting,
Oh, MMA has some good
so
job descriptions out there.
But I mean, for instance, if somebody who, there might be a very financially savvy person out there that would be interested in this type of position. But if the title is out there as deputy tax collector treasurer, that might be limiting.
I can change this to,
The sheriff of
this is
Nottingham or
just-
something. I mean,
this is just the way it was. It's really, this is what we really, I can call it whatever we want to and advertise it for whatever we want. This is where the rubber meets the road, is that number right there.
Yeah.
So
And
I can call it whatever we want. I can put another 10,000 in there to attract.
And we have
More
to tell, like,
qualified.
for the sake of argument, if we let's say we approve this budget the way it is, and let's say for the sake of argument, the budget committee recommends that too. We still have enough time, whereas if something happened in the next month or 6 weeks, maybe, that the recommendation could be amended before we get to town meeting. Either by, the budget committee may choose not to, but what I'm saying is, like, if you say, oh, I found this awesome person, but it's gonna cost us another, $10,000 more than we thought, what do we think? We could change our budget recommendation if we were in line with that.
But we're not gonna, let's hypothetically, here, if we found the awesome person, we would hire them prior to the budget, before we went to town meeting.
Yes,
So, I
and
mean,
then, well, then, yeah.
So then we'd still have to make an amendment, don't get me wrong, but I mean, that's why I think it's best to get that number as close as, like, whatever you think is realistic as possible.
Do you think that number needs to be higher than
Mhm.
50,000?
I do, if you want to get someone with some expertise in accounting and that knows where money should go and getting the accounts straightened out, I do, yeah.
Do you think it needs to be an incremental $10,000, or is there somewhere else you think you could pull it from?
I mean, we could always, well, it depends if what they take. This is really where the money,
I think, yeah, I don't think you can take that. I think you need the budget for that.
we can go down here. There isn't really a whole lot
There
of,
really isn't, is there?
no. No, I tried, other than that part of the budget, I tried to keep it as
So,
tight as I could. I mean, I'm only up 910 on the expenses.
all right. It's essentially $100,000 over actual, which is, I mean, most people don't look at what was budgeted for 2022. They base their percent, at least one of them will base their percentage off what was spent versus
Mhm.
what you're asking for. That's just going to be a big, without a really good explanation on the floor. That's why, I mean, we can't go back and forth with, we're hiring this one, or maybe doing this one, or maybe doing that one. Because that $100,000, I mean, I get it in today's world, $100,000 was isn't what it was 10 years ago, but to a lot of folks, that's still, and it is, it's still a very significant amount of money. It's a lot of money. And it's a big increase on that budget. 27% is the biggest increase I've ever, other than like maybe the lawn.
27. Oh, that's for that section.
Yeah.
It's just the bottom line total is 23, but this is probably the same point.
Yeah.
It's the same point. It's a pretty big, especially when all your other, I mean, you made all your other departments come in with a 5-6%.
So can I ask another question?
Sure.
About this? Part of the GIS mapping was to take some work off of the counter home. Right?
I don't know that.
Well, because
No, that's true.
Is it? Yeah, I don't, it was before me and.
Yeah.
and so, I mean, obviously you're not the right person to ask, but what percentage of the work at the counter or answering the phones was that, GIS, yeah, the GIS type questions, who are my neighbors? What does this look like? And so,
I don't know if anybody can ever answer that. And I'll only say with this is because
Yeah.
it takes time for the people, like the realtors and stuff, to realize that we actually have GIS.
Yeah, right.
So you're gonna get that phone call for the first 2 years until everybody gets to figure out like, oh, you have that already up online because we've never had it.
well, except they're all going to look at our website for the phone number, right? And and that notice is up there. The GIS.
I just asked Siri. I never look at her website. I mean, that's what everybody does, man. Nobody. I mean, that's why I never understand these people on the internet. Hey, does anybody know? I mean, that's your phone, man.
Yeah.
Type it in.
I think Rich's point about the increase is a good one.
Right.
So I tend to think that we should probably not add another 10,000 in
I don't even know how to get this.
on that particular line and put the posting out and see what we get, see what happens.
I mean,
and then if we need to react to something, maybe we react to it. But
in reality, we're only $5,000 more in salary than the person who
I
left.
get that component. It's the bottom line. I don't care about what those line items say. I really care about the.
I get it.
so make it. I guess the message is like, dude, make it work with $100,000 more dollars than you had last year.
I mean, because
I mean, and we can go back to that and limp along like we have been. And
You're saying $100,000 increase, you'd still be limping along?
well, it all has to do with the. Oh no, I thought you said get rid of it and go back to what we.
No.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. No.
Sure. And the other thing is, I mean, I think we're being a little. I mean, we haven't really been limping around. We just had a quick, like a lot of companies or businesses, quick turnaround in staff. So we're not as efficient as we once were. That efficiency will come with time as long as we're able to
Retain the
Retain,
employees,
yeah.
exactly.
so you're not going to get the commendation that Rich gave everybody else tonight. But when you look through this, there really is. I mean, saying this with a 23% increase, there really is no place to cut this when I look at it. And so, you're not going to get hey, you kept it under 6% from Rich. But I mean, I got to admit, with the way you sold it, I think you've done a good job keeping it at what you have.
Well, thanks. It was.
I don't necessarily like it. But,
No, I don't, and neither do I. I mean, but these are the numbers.
Salary's going up.
It's
Salaries are going up. I mean,
Look,
it's
it's
an
coming.
employee's
It's
market. If you don't treat them good, you know how it is. They'll bail.
do. You don't have to tell me.
So it's workmanship. Everything's going up.
I'll take the Pepsi challenge. You're forced to mine any day.
All right. So
And again, too, though, we have to, I don't really know as if these percentages are actually correct, because if you look at the CEO's pay, that's bumping that percentage up.
yeah,
Increasing
it's-
the all
it's
percent,
like
so
we're saying, it's not about the line items, it's about the total at the bottom.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, what we're saying here is that, in order for you to make some changes, increase the skill level in our accounting finance area, whether that be via hiring a more qualified individual or farming it out, and to make some adjustments in your staffing and counter coverage in other ways, we're looking at a $103,000 increase over last year, which is like a 23% increase in that.
Mhm.
So whether at the line, we can argue about line item level stuff all day, and I'll leave that to other committees to spend their time doing that. But I think we're focused on the bottom here. It's like, how do we feel about the bottom line number?
I mean,
Hate it, but
yeah.
I do.
but what do you, I mean, if I'm gonna tell you to cut something, I'm gonna try to give you an idea of where I think it should come from. And you know, the only place I could tell you to cut it from would be the benefits. But then what happens?
Right.
I mean, and then, you know, I can't in good faith tell you that. I think that's a great idea to cover our butts to make sure it's there.
You know,
Needed,
if
so.
we leave the contingency line at 15, we can bring the 24.5 down to the 11,320.
Well, one approach, Jerry, I mean, I think, you know, there's a couple things in here that are different, that were predetermined prior to your budget. You need to spell that out. For example,
Yeah.
the code enforcement salary, boom, that's an additional what? X amount.
Your salary.
Your salary, that's another.
Right.
So those are fixed costs that are already built into a budget prior to the budget being developed. So I think if you can articulate that some way and break it down from that standpoint, so really all you're increasing is maybe at the end of the day, $60,000 or $50,000.
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of hidden is the on the part-time deputy clerk salary. That position was hired in 22, so we don't have an LY
Right.
for that position
Right.
as a part-time position.
That's another good example.
You know, so if you were funding that as how many hours was that position part-time now? How many?
She does anywhere between 10 and 15.
Okay, so not quite half.
Right.
So
Now with the vacant position, she's
so that line going from full-time to part-time is not an increase of 39,500 over what it would have been.
Right.
It's more like an increase of 22,000 over what it would have been.
Yeah, but you throw the 21 on top of that, and you throw the 21 on top of, or not the 21, but the code enforcement salary increase of, you know, 15,000. That those numbers, that's what I'm saying.
Against the budget, yes,
Against the budget,
exactly.
when you don't have a past number, but they're already in there. They're just not showing they're showing accurately. They're just not represented correctly because we didn't spend the money, even though the position was there.
It can present this because really
It's
it might be worth, you know, just for communication
As much as it
purposes,
looks.
breaking this out, like what is truly the new spending,
right.
and really the new spending is budgeting a little bit higher in that deputy tax collector position, a little more than half of the deputy clerk salary position.
Right.
And then some of the other like line by line miscellaneous stuff. But in reality, there's not a ton of discretionary new spending, I guess is how I would put it. There is new spending because those two things I just mentioned, they're real, but it's not discretionary.
Right. You just look at your 5K increase on the collector and treasurer, you know, that's 5,000. And then you got almost a $13,000 increase. So that's 18,000 just in one position.
Right.
When in all actuality, it might have been that last year. You know what I mean? If somebody was hired with a family or something.
Right.
You're doing what you say. I think you just need to be very clear how you explain it, because I don't think it's overly padded. It's just the optics of it look that way. It's kind of
The bottom numbers.
it's not very clear. It's a kind of a muddy description of what's transpiring because of the fact that not everything was funded. Some of these jobs are going to be higher. Some people, we don't know whether or not what type of insurance they're going to take. And those are big ticket items that add up.
Yeah,
very quick.
they are.
You know, your salary was already negotiated before. Like, that's not an option for the town.
Right.
They need to recognize that. Like, that's not, we're just not throwing that on top because we like Jerry so much.
Right.
That was what was negotiated.
I mean, you have like $42,000 just in that, you know, right there. That's almost half of that increase.
Right.
And the rest of it comes from, most of it comes from increasing the part-time to full-time and those sorts of things.
I mean,
It makes sense.
So
Yeah, it
I
makes
will
sense.
say,
Like,
When you
because
break it down that way.
because all the other articles have very low, if any, increases, you'll see when we get to the tax impact, depending on what we can do with undesignated, that it's a pretty minimal tax impact. In fact, depending on how much we can use from undesignated, we could conceivably reduce the rate this year. Primarily because of using ARPA funds to fund the capital stuff. So, all right. So is there anybody that is thinking that we need to reduce this total article or increase it for that
Can you go
matter?
down all the way to the bottom, Jared?
Sure.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same.
if you could find a way to reduce it,
yeah,
that'd be great, but
Yeah.
I mean,
You can't use ARPA funds to do it, so.
and I'm all about it too. I mean, I didn't like it either. I knew it was gonna be a kind of,
I know, but if
but it's
I
been
think-
great conversation.
I think you have to explain it the way, I mean, you get the 12,000 increase in your salary, the 16 in the code enforcement salary. I mean, I think you explain it
15.
Set
continue.
that
ways.
aside.
Yeah,
and
that's
and
easy
then
enough
look-
to do.
and then
That's
look
easy
at-
enough to do.
look at it that way, and it's a completely different picture.
I also paint it as worst case scenario. You don't ever really want to give people high hopes, like, because once you say it, you're bound to it. But, we're planning that we don't know what that position is going to take to fill.
Right,
And it's a hypothesis at this point.
yeah.
Right, like if you're fortunate enough, if you don't have to touch your contingency,
Right.
and if we did hire somebody and they qualified for insurance and they took single, I mean, that's $30,000 right there.
Right. Just like that too.
Just-
I mean, yeah.
So,
That's the confusing.
So
part.
again,
Or
that-
like the other employees where they're on their spouse's insurance, they don't take any insurance at all.
That speaks to how this is how budgets are about, being prepared
Yes.
for what could reasonably happen. It's not a list of known expenditures.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
All right. So we're pushing 9:00 here. So unless there's something else on this one, I'm suggesting we move on.
No, the only thing you want to roll into any explanation is how you're gonna use the other resources like Devin and
Mm-hmm.
Kim.
Yeah.
How that offsets these numbers here.
Was that another
A little
budget?
bit.
It's in a telecom budget, but yeah,
Telecom budget.
yeah, we can look at that.
So let's just go right across. Debt
Debt
service is debt service. There's not much. we can
Right.
do.
Actually, I like this one better. I have it here, payment schedule. So that service is the 958, 394 that we're gonna be paying this year. Okay.
It's down significantly this next year.
All right, so let's look at animal control here.
That's essentially a contracted amount.
Yeah,
right?
both of them are.
So is assessing.
So is assessing. Assessing is pretty much flat for the most part.
Moving on.
Cemeteries now, Public Works, they're gonna absorb mowing the cemetery, so we was able to remove that.
Oh,
And the rest is
Just, that number is so low, and with manpower being is that really, I can't, even if Public Works spends, by the time you fuel a truck, bring the mower over there, unhook it, do you really think we're saving money by not subcontracting that out?
No, I just think where it was such a low number, if that had been like a $15,000 or a $20,000 item.
Then I'd say let Public Works absorb it. That's my point.
Really, then they might not have the time to do that because it's so large, but where it's so small, I was thinking they could just.
I know
absorb it.
Public Works sometimes struggles mowing a ball field in this town.
Yeah.
I've seen it over the years. So, because they get busy and
Yeah.
sometimes a guy gets hurt. And
Yeah.
those for $5,000, and I don't know if we already put it out to bid, if that was actually going to be this
No.
year's bid. And historically, they've been pretty consistent with that number. I don't see the benefit of passing that over to Public Works personally.
You might want to, try it out, but again, back to the hours it takes, keep track track of it and then see if it's worth it.
And tying up the equipment, we're always short a truck. Calvin wants to buy a truck to go to Napa.
I'm with you too. I mean,
Well,
can you really do it for that?
Don't tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. I was, whether it's,
I think it's worth a shot.
Try it, yeah. But keep track of it. And you might, next year, you might go and say, yeah, that really
Put
didn't
it back
work out. Yeah.
Calvin, I'm sure, obviously you guys talk about it, but you don't see the concern though? But I mean, you can't just keep track of man hours is my point.
Right,
You know, by
yeah,
the time you
it's-
start
you're
throwing
right.
in the
It's not
mower
just a
and the
man
gas
hour
and the truck and the trailer and the tires and all that stuff,
Right.
it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's not just man hours,
yeah.
but okay. It was just my.
Jared,
Let's move on.
Chief and I can't leave until we get to the capital, right? So,
So you get-
No, you don't need to be here for capital.
Right.
For the trucks or whatever.
No, like
No,
you
I
said
think we
today,
know,
we're
I
all
think we have
set.
what we need on that.
Yeah,
Okay,
everything's been rated and
okay.
ranked and,
Our only discussion is how far down the list do we go,
right.
you know?
All the way, sir.
That's my proposal. So, I think that then, and there seems to be, and then the question is how it's about how we fund it, like, taking stuff from reserves versus raising. Now, obviously, reserves contributions, that's a raise. You don't take money out of reserves to pay for putting money in reserves. But, you know, for what's been proposed between ARPA and capital funds, we should be able to fund everything with reserves and not have to raise any of it.
You're almost there. I already went through it and it's close. But yes.
Oh, you can't do it all with ARPA.
No, you can't.
No.
But the ones that you could do ARPA,
I've got an ARPA. I've got it within less than $1,000 left.
Really? Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
That's good. See the mix.
Calvin, maybe you can get that Napa truck.
ARPA funds.
Actually, do you want to go over Capitol Road? Can you bring up the tax impact sheet?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll stay, Calvin, if you want to go, but I mean, that's up to you.
I'm a
So-
team player.
Scroll down to the capital section.
Just get this a little bit bigger for you.
Yeah. Ignore the yellow there. So we'll just do this in the town manager's thing. So let me bring it up. I had what I do with my spreadsheet. Oh, it's this one I want. So okay, you're driving. So put so get in that column H there. Yeah. So yeah, put 50,000 in there.
50,000 in here.
Yeah. 50,000 in the next one. The next two are good. Go down to assessing. No, I'm sorry. No, nothing there because that's actually assessing reserves, right? We're
Right.
saving for that's a reserve,
Right.
right? Chief truck and public works reserve, same thing, and then town office generator 23,000. Put 23,000 in there.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I want you to on the starting with the fire department exhaust removal. Yeah, go into that fifth note where you just entered it. Column H. We're all in column H. Yeah. Change the highlighting of that color to like orange or something like that.
The whole row, the whole,
No, just that cell.
just that.
Actually, that cell and the two below it.
Oh, okay, hold on. And the two below, hold on. And these two too?
Yeah.
25, 105.
And then the 23,000, highlight that one as orange too. Okay, those, scroll up a little bit so we can see all the capital stuff. So this is, under this scenario, a place to start the discussion is, I would say that the orange stuff is what we would fund with ARPA money. And that if you add those up, they total $303,000. And our available ARPA funds right now are $303,483.87. So, and then I would propose the things that are not orange be funded out of the appropriate reserves account. So the stream crossing 50,000 would come out of Public Works capital reserves. And then the chief's truck and the fire department generator would come out of fire department reserves.
Yep.
But I want, so that would fund everything with reserves or ARPA.
Yep.
So not having to raise any money. Well, the money we'd be raising would be the public works reserves and the assessing reserves. That would be money raised. One potential thing to think about is with the town office generator. I went back and forth on this one and I still don't know what makes sense. I wanted to have discussion about it. Part of me says to hold off on funding that and hold that 23,000 of ARPA funds and use it for the technology upgrades we need at the Eureka Center to do our meetings and hybrid meetings over there, and do that in 24. Because we,
What funds?
huh?
With what funds?
With that 20.
With the 23,000, not, what I say is like, don't do the generator.
Don't do the generator.
Right.
Okay.
Don't do the generator
But what if we
and
did-
not spend that 23,000 of ARPA funds, hold that and use it in 24 to do technology upgrades for Eureka or this room to enable, to take care of some of the issues we have technology wise that keeps us from doing like hybrid meetings. Like it's mainly audio stuff and it's everything over there. That's just a thought because the generator was the lowest priority. I wasn't in this. I don't know how even there, maybe you could speak to it, Joe, like how big of a deal that was, in the discussions with the CIP committee. Is it last because was it last because something had to be last, or was it last because, we didn't really, we weren't that high on it and, but we were asked to rank it and it ranked last. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it just, it didn't rank high basically because it wasn't a warming center.
that's what I came back to too.
And,
Is
the
emergency management stuff happens across the street. Right.
And of course, it's important for town operations, but for the short amount of time that it impacted, usually
Right.
probably not. Certainly, that was the two impacts.
So then I kind of hear like, what would be the better use of that money? Would it be a generator or would it be some of the technology upgrades we've talked about for
If we could do
for Eureka and or this building for
Getting Eureka, I think, is probably important, more important than the generator right away. But you're gonna have to do this generator at some point. It's not a huge cost either. So do you just?
I don't get why it's 23 grand.
Yeah, it seems a little, but I know they
but
priced both
and the
of them
fire
out.
department one
quote-
is 32.8.
Yeah, the quotes were pretty comparable.
Are they replacing that
per-
big cat out there? I mean,
per kilowatt. I know.
oh, I got my house. My house is even this price.
So I'm going to change the subject. I think that the technology upgrades are important because the hope is to use this space as offices, and other space, and that with the increasing staff, lack of room, I think that has to take a priority. And so I think I would be in support of that. As important as I think it is to get a generator here, I think that is a better use of the ARPA funds at this point.
Or the other option that you could you do an opera and then you do a capital request that you raise the money to do the.
Well, right. You're really not.
You're gonna be raising the money one way or the other, right?
Right. You're really not saying you're not going to do the generator. You're just going to put it on the warrant and we're going to raise the 23.
Well, I'm saying, and as we say this out loud, I'm wondering if it's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other situation, because if you've got the technology upgrades and the office generator,
Which
and
one's gonna?
if you're gonna eventually do them both,
Yeah.
one of them will have actually one of them the funds will either have to be raised or come out of like the municipal capital account or something like that. But we're not really putting money into the municipal capital account. So what is that, like 90,000 in that or something like that? But
And the
so
municipal-
there might be some money in
The
there to
technology
do that.
upgrades are about the same, 23,000.
We don't know. That's the thing. That's why I'm saying 24, because we don't know. I don't know if that would be enough, or if it would be way too much.
I think Eureka Center has a higher sense of urgency to get that equipment done. For example, the town generator, what's worst case scenario if we lose power, if we close? Like, it's not a warming center. No, we're not storing baby formula here for the town or anything like that.
And how many people come in when there's no power?
They
If
don't.
the
They
power
close
is-
every time there's a snowstorm lately. So I mean, what's
We haven't,
30,000?
we didn't even flicker last.
That's what, I mean, my street was the only street that lost it the other day, by the way. Because I get no service from the public because of, whatever. I'm not-
So there's only
Not complaining, right?
there's only 30,000 in the municipal capital account. So because we spent some of it this year, I think.
Yeah.
Just
We
I don't get the
assigned-
generator.
I think the technology is probably is
Far more important.
And that's something I think we could look at and, maybe not wait till 24, but get that started.
So I think what we would need to do then is,
Yes.
but we're not ready to go to voters with
The technology.
the technology, right? Because there's like some homework that needs to be done on that. So if we wanted to in 23 use ARPA funds for technology upgrades at Eureka Center, that's going to require a special town meeting to ask that question, much like we had to do last time with those, because we're not ready to ask that question April 1st.
Right.
And so if that's the scenario, if that's where the board is thinking they might want to go, then that would mean that we would not use ARPA funds for the generator. It doesn't mean we couldn't do the generator. We could just raise the 23,000
Right.
and do the generator. Because that was what I meant by the 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You got to end up doing it anyway. And you can't use if you choose not to use ARPA funds for it, you got to use something else.
So I thought though that we couldn't mix the raising of the money with the ARPA funds.
It wouldn't be mixed.
Well, it might be if we were to upgrade the Eureka Center, it was more than 23 grand and we don't know what that.
Oh, well, then you could break that up. You could say what
Technology,
23,000 for
yeah.
this part of it,
We could buck it
and
out,
then
yeah.
supplement it
Okay.
for other stuff. Yeah, right. It wouldn't be like we couldn't do that like say with a truck. You
Right.
can't say, well, with ARPA funds, we're going to buy the engine, and with other funds, we're going to buy the chassis. Although with a plow truck, you might do that because that's almost two separate deals, right?
Twice.
But just,
So
I'm good with that. I still like the generator. I mean, I've been around a while now. Generator
Seems
very
like-
rarely works. It's not like it's something that's in demand that's even needed right away. I mean, like I
But
said, if the lights go out, this place closes.
but if it's out, then the heat's out, and we don't want to freeze this
Okay.
place. How many days?
It takes a lot.
Well,
I mean, how many days has that thing out back worked?
well, I was out for 3 or 4 days.
I'm just asking since we've been here.
but
I
if
know, I know.
I mean, if you had a
I'm
scenario
looking at
like that,
Worst case
Then put
scenario.
do
All
an
right, we'll go
emergency
this way.
portable generator
Put a
out for a
portable
while.
generator in here and put a $1,200 Gentran in and have Public Works come over and hook one up if we need to.
I
Got it
agree,
back in the
we
day,
don't need
so-
to spend $23,000 on a generator. I
that's a
think
lot.
that's a lot of money.
That seems a little crazy.
So is nobody blinking an eye at the 32.8 for the fire department generator? What's
Well, that-
different about the fire
I can see
department
that.
generator?
That was a larger generator.
Okay.
And
In the whole,
they were encompassing some electrical upgrades.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's some, yeah.
I will say, 23,000 is not that out of whack for what you're going to pay for a residential these days. I've had, because I looked into this recently, and there were quotes like in the $18,000 range. Part of it is it's a seller's market on that stuff right now. But
But all the infrastructure for it is here. All you'd have to do is.
Oh, well, that's
replace the
true.
generator.
That's a good point. That's a very good
It's
point.
not like you're outfitting the whole
It's not,
house.
yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah.
Gas is here, everything. But I mean, what do you need here more than a residential generator? That's my point.
Yeah, no, I
But if all you're gonna run is.
do we have an actual bid on that?
No, just a quote, just a,
Quote from who? What's the,
what was they from chief? That
Electrical Systems, I mean, they're the ones that put the one in the Public Works, and I think ours was like 14 grand, but that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, but that's a considerably larger building. Running some serious stuff. I mean, you guys here, we're like Todd's talking about, we're trying to run a refrigerator in the heat.
You just run the heat, just keep
And the
the.
refrigerator is kind of
Plumbing.
like, cares if
from
cheap.
freezing.
You never know until you go into bid, because they're not gonna give their.
If the power's out.
GSM does a great job. They do a great job. They are,
If I recall, the town manager requested a number to start with, right? So the first request for proposal through them were those two numbers.
Yeah.
And that's taking away the old one, disposing of it, upgrading whatever per code. So NFPA 70 electrical, which I don't think, because it's commercial, Alan could inspect. You had to do it from the state. There were certain
Okay.
fees and permits involved. I'm not trying to sell it, but that's.
no, but
that's
there's a
what was-
legit,
That was
like,
explained to me. Now, that doesn't mean that's the highest or the cheapest. That was just
just a
a
quote.
ballpark to
Just
start.
to get a budget
so
number.
that's, so, I mean, we can hang our hat on that. I mean, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think it'd be more than plenty safe,
Mm,
23
yeah.
grand.
So
Jesus,
what,
they have
what do you
to-
guys think in terms of the, ARPA versus raising the money? Like if we, like we could use ARPA for the generator now, and then when it, and then when we get ready to, do Eureka technology, we can just do it out of regular. Because that actually, because you could, because that would be a municipal capital expense, we could just use municipal capital funds without having to go to a town meeting and at least get it going. Get infrastructure in, start working on it, in 23 with funds that are already in that.
And that's something there's more likely to be a grant for that you might be able to find.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
Generator.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, well, so. Yeah, that's what we got this generator on a grant.
Yeah, it's a safety item. I agree. You can get a.
So, well, that's another scenario. Like, do we not? I know.
I know you were, but I disagree with you. I think it's the generator is easier to get the grant.
It was
When you
confusing.
talk about on safety,
It
you're
was
right.
confusing me.
So, if I may,
Please.
I was offered a grant through EMA for generators, but that's a 50-50. So everyone likes to throw grants around, other people in town, but that was 50-50. So, you're still talking 25,000 in some type of capital outlay for a matching that you can't use ARPA for.
Yeah, right. If we do that, we can't use opera funds. You're right.
So that was just the latest grant. This was, I think, September 11th, 2001 type of stuff. So a lot of municipalities were getting free upgrades for infrastructure for that type of stuff. The latest grant, that, again, through EMA, Androscoggin County, was a 50-50 match.
Part of me said that with that variable thrown in there, I would almost not fund the generator on this budget and pursue the grant. And if we got it, the match, we could take the match out of our own capital fund for the generator. Hold the 23 for technology, and then if we need to have a special town meeting to ask a question, then we do.
Right. If it's that much easier to get a grant for the generator, then I think that's a better idea.
Well, that's how we got that one.
Somebody dropped that off, man.
Somebody dropped it.
Big army truck. I don't know what
Big
that thing.
cat
They're
guy
talking
came
about
over.
power. This was back when we only had.
Deb
4 houses
Larrabee, I
in
think,
town.
did that.
Yeah, she did.
It's a massive generator.
Mhm, mhm.
That was right after like Katrina, right? Wasn't it around that time frame when everybody was like,
Yeah.
the sky is falling?
Because I think, yeah,
It's kind of fell last couple of
those
years.
two and the schools got put in at the same time.
So does that feel as far as capital, if we,
Take out,
yeah, so we would,
take out the 23.
Take out the 23.
yeah,
Hold on to it.
take it out of there and column F.
Do you want me to just delete the money right out?
And same thing. Oh, no, sorry. Hit undo on that.
Yeah, leave it there. Just the orange line is gonna go away.
Find that. There we go.
So
422.8.
So orange is your ARPA, and then the rest of it is
92.8.
Yeah, so that leaves about 23,000 in ARPA funds.
Yeah.
So the 50, because there wasn't, yeah.
and actually that works out better too, because
80,000.
you've got a couple of expenses in ARPA that could go up or down a little bit, so you'll end up with a little bit of balance there.
Well, we can't go over.
We can't go over
ARPA.
yet. No, but the line items
Yeah, I see.
themselves could
Right.
go up or down a little bit.
These a little
You know, the
bit.
rehab of the Quint could, adjust a tiny bit.
That 422 isn't right.
What's that?
No, it's not right.
Not adding
It's
up.
over 50,000. That's
Why are you saying it's not right?
that's 200 and
Yeah, let me do
It's
it.
280 plus 90 is 370.
92.
Yeah.
72,
Yeah, but what's the column heading there? Sorry.
How does that happen?
That was, so right here, we want to sum that up.
Oh, that's right.
Huh?
Oh, he's missing a row. Scroll up.
Yeah.
Scroll up. You're not seeing all the rows.
Oh, we're missing a row.
You missed
How do we miss a row?
It was just scrolled up and you couldn't see it. It was hidden behind the scroll.
Right.
Yeah, see.
That's it.
What I can do if you want to see it, I can
It's the last one.
So it's
Oh,
right, it's right.
there you go.
So that's just the ARPA.
See it.
That's total reserves.
That's total.
All in ARPA and our own reserves
Right, so
combined.
the ARPA's in orange and the green is
Public Works is.
Green is our own. Yeah.
our own.
So fire and public works, depending
Oh,
on which item
he
we're
added
talking
in the
about.
50. There you go.
Yeah.
Never mind. You got it.
So orange is opera.
And so
So
if we're doing that with the town office generator, why aren't we having a similar discussion about the fire department generator?
Well, for me, it's a warming station. It's a
Right.
Yeah,
public
it-
service.
yeah.
I mean, it's
The need
completely
is much
different.
greater.
It's not even on the same scope.
it needs to-
That's a legitimate question, though. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
our radios are tied to
To it.
that too. I know
Garage
everyone's
doors
talking about
need to go up.
cooling garage, yeah,
Can't run those on a 9-volt.
couple of them.
Couple nines.
You got a guy.
You just gotta crank them every
I
once
got
in
a
a
guy for
while.
that.
I got a
I
bunch of double A
We don't do
batteries.
radios.
Okay.
So
All right. So that, I think that, is anybody, because I want to let the chief and Calvin go. Is there anybody that wants to is thinking to do something with capital other than what we've kind of got right here?
Why, and we're not putting the assessing in there?
We are, it's just those are not reserve funds. So basically the way the spreadsheet is working is,
That's, sorry, never mind.
Okay.
Now I got it, the reserves. It's just
so
the
we,
reserve fund.
because of the, it's still in the expenditure, the reserves line is just how we pay for it.
Right,
And then on, when we get to the tax impact tab, what happens is that the reserve money used gets subtracted from the amount that you need to raise.
Right.
So,
What was the brief, 2-second answer on the flatbread truck? What was the usage of that again, Calvin? On the flatbread truck for $105,000.
The
What was the
one-ton
main?
flatbed.
The one-ton flatbread. Yeah, flatbed.
I know. It's like, I thought you were trying to be funny, but then I said, no, he doesn't realize he's saying that.
One-ton flatbed truck for $105. What is the?
It's not a flatbed truck. It's a dump truck.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
a
know why
dump.
that says that.
It's a one-ton dump truck.
Okay.
Okay. And that we need for just hauling stuff around.
Medium, it's a medium duty dump.
It's not an addition to the fleet, right? It's a replacement for a current vehicle?
Correct.
Yes.
But I want to keep the old, the one that we have now.
So it's an addition.
So it is an addition to the fleet.
Yeah, but the CIP committee said they just want to make sure it didn't get, that the existing 2008 truck didn't get added. So.
What truck is it, quote unquote, taking service over for?
The 2008 Chevy,
What do we do with that truck right now? What is that for?
that's the truck we use for, we had, when we split the crews, or we use it for plowing,
Why wouldn't we trade the old truck?
because we need an additional truck.
No, you've been trying for an additional truck and we keep saying no. I do not want to support a backdoor effort to get an additional truck.
Not to mention the last additional truck, you said like $5,000 to $7,000. Now we're up to $105 for this additional truck.
Yeah.
I think it was $7,000 or something.
So the idea is when we send the crews out, you have a crew, you have two crews out, two opposite ends of town, and the truck has to go back and get more stuff or
This is
go
my
and get,
favorite lawnmower.
the crew has to stay there. Our job sites, unlike traditional construction, they go to a site, they stay there all day. Ours are mobile, they're moving all the time. So we're ditching, where it's a linear project. If the truck has to leave to go get something, the crew is just stranded beside the road. They have no trucks. So it's really a problem when we are sitting there with a crew that doesn't have transportation. That's what moves the cones, the barrels, everything is cheaper.
I don't know on this one. So we've been, by that rationale, for the last X amount of years, we've been that inefficient.
Well, it's certainly frustrating when we have to.
Well, it's just, I don't mean to be a dink, but it's just a yes or no. We've been very inefficient for the last few years, even though we've been kind of
Inefficient, we've been
Fine.
having to-
tooting our horn on how efficient we are and so forth. Now we're saying we're that.
I think it's a frustration that we've had to deal with that we would rather not deal with anymore.
What do you got to do if you got to take one off to go mow the cemeteries?
Well, the crew would go with it.
Crew's got to go, whole crew.
So we would have just one guy doing that.
So we're at, but I guess long story short, we're adding a truck to the fleet, correct, for $105,000.
Yes. And the 2008, we wouldn't put on the replacement.
But we're not adding any personnel. That's the problem.
Well, CIP committee ranked it the fourth priority. So, in honor of that process, I think, I'm not sure, I mean, they have vetted it more fully than the rest of us.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there for the CMP, but I'm not doubting them. I'm just, from my standpoint, that
Yeah.
we're replacing a truck. We're not replacing a truck. We're adding a truck. to the
Adding a
fleet.
truck.
What's the traded value of the truck that you want to trade in?
2008 with some of the rusty frame, we just had to have it welded twice to get a sticker. I don't know, it's 10, 12 grand.
Maybe.
2008, really.
Maybe.
It's just,
Yeah, we didn't feel as
It's
though
got a
that-
rusty frame.
Yeah, we didn't feel as though there was much life left in that truck, and as long as he didn't come back and put it on the schedule, that.
it would be run to exhaust.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's Just to run it down and.
So back to it is a replacement truck.
Yeah.
It's a delay, it's an anticipatory
It's in the
replacement.
delayed entry program.
It's a proactive replacement truck.
We'll be buying a frame.
So, all right.
Wash the truck. My truck's a
All
2012.
right, we're at 9:30. Let's see if we can wrap this up, but we got to wrap this up by 10.
10.
Well, we're at 9:30 now. Well, we got a minute.
All right.
All right,
So you want to leave the you want to leave the mowing contract? You want me to add the 49?
No, I leave that. I would, well, yeah. The consensus I heard was to leave it and try it for a year, see how it goes.
He's gonna need that
I
truck.
mean, we got a truck, we got to put it. We already need that truck, never mind taking on more work, so now we're gonna need another truck next year.
Okay, so solid waste, this is anybody's guess on what this is gonna be. I don't know. Kevin was at the meeting that I was at with Casella. This 350 might be low, but
For what we know now, it's as good a number as any we're gonna have.
I just-
So this one, as we get more information from Casella, this number might get adjusted before town meeting. But for the information we have right now, this is the best we have to go on. So
Okay, so here's some,
God, it's a lot of money. Over the
Yeah.
trash.
here's parks now.
Transfer station. Now we need another truck.
The park, so this, I pretty much kept this the same, with, traditional funding. The sanitation has always been around 80, and the park maintenance, that really, if I unhide this, I don't wanna, but you can see where it's been, in previous years. And I think through the COVID years, we didn't do much for whatever. I mean, in 2022, there was no budget for it. So what I did was I brought it up to like the 2020 actual when they did that. And I don't know what they actually spent there. I don't know. Maybe you folks have better history than I do.
Is that for the runaround pond
Runaround pond,
sanitation?
yeah.
I got a feeling there was
There was an accident, we had to send Ponto and the boys over there to clean that up.
Oh.
yeah, that was a couple of years ago.
Like 20,
Yeah,
no, I'm
he-
serious, it was like
He
20.
brought his Brunswick crew
Yeah.
over. That was before we handed that task off to our own public works department. But I suspect the sanitation in there, I suspect that's for pumping of the pumping of
Right, that's
the,
what I heard.
That's exactly what it is.
and I'm guessing that something didn't get posted right in 2022, or we didn't pump it at all, which
I don't think-
find hard to believe.
Calvin, do you know if it got, I don't think it did.
Really?
What?
Oh,
No.
that's possible.
There must be a big knockdown stick in that thing.
Just burn it at night. man. Barrel underneath there, pull that barrel out, burn it.
So, we need to talk about the river park. Let me hide these ones that go way back just for a second. Yeah. See. So the river park, I put a 1,500 because it needs a new sign, but then we have a river. There's restricted fund balances, and there's this like River Park project that's 7,900 in it, and I don't know what that was for. But this was in the audit report that we just got.
So Ruth explained to me at one point that there was when we got that project, there was a land trust. Was involved. Somehow there's a lot of money there, and that's all I know. I know enough to be dangerous.
It was, I know the Androscoggin River Land Trust was involved in that.
Are they still?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, that's why the part of me said, well, maybe they should buy the sign.
Or maybe we should just use the $7,000 that we got in there. to buy the sign.
Yeah, I mean,
Why would we add more money to it? We got
Right,
If we
and
got
I just
$7,000 earmarked for something,
Right.
we shouldn't be raising more if we haven't even.
I agree, and I just kind of put this together so we could
I would
take that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Just get a sign.
You do need signing, it's just rotten.
Yeah, but we got $7,000 in the.
And the stone wall's all falling down, it's gotta be repaired as well.
Don't worry about it. We got trucks coming. We'll fix that stone wall.
We got a flatbed truck.
We got that. We got that all.
You put rocks on.
Flatbed, apple flatbread.
that thing, we need one rated for heavy masonry loads though.
With a boom. I get it. Understandable.
Everything else is,
Or a
pretty,
concrete pumper. Yeah. Hey, I'm all in. Let's do it. Get to know
Everything
Matt,
else
the ball
here
cap
is
on top
pretty
too.
good, except I want to talk about recreation now. I don't know if we're gonna have, I don't know about the Memorial Day Park Parade.
Leave
Last
that
year we
in
did,
there, yeah.
okay. So this 5,000 was up because
That's normal. The last year wasn't normal.
but the thing is, again, restricted fund balances, or is it, no, the reserve fund balances, and if you look in recreation, there's 20 grand in there. So I don't know much about,
So
This-
this is the prime example of, like, in the past, when we were using funds assigned to specific articles, recreation oftentimes, in fact, I would even say usually, was completely funded by funds in the recreation account, which came from snowmobile and boat excise taxes primarily. But it's going to have to word it on the warrant, because there's going to be an article that's going to need to ask to like use revenues, the following revenues and assigned fund balances, towards the budget to offset taxes. So even though the number for recreation that goes of the fund we should use, the amount should equal the recreation budget. So we shouldn't pull out more than the recreation budget, because then you're using those funds for something other than recreation.
right,
But it shouldn't be, if there's money there, it shouldn't be
we should,
less than the recreation budget.
right, right,
You know what I'm getting
I
at?
think so. But we don't need to add it, do we, here, if we have it in the,
It needs to be added to where it will come in on the tax impact is on the revenue tab. So if you basically on that revenue tab, we're gonna need something else. The same is going to be true of telecommunications and animal control. This is what I was talking about in that email, right?
right,
Where we're going to have to show that we're using the funds from those.
let me, just so they
Reserves
see
for that
know what you're
purpose.
talking about, I'll bring it right up for you. So,
So those are revenues, and so in some of those cases, the revenue would be applied directly against the budget, okay? And one of those, like for instance, town clerk fees, right? But in other cases, things like snowmobile excise and actually down conservation park and recreation, okay? It shows revenues of 8557, right?
yeah,
But the budget is for 9 something.
yeah,
And there's 20 something in the account.
yes,
So that 8557 number should really be, it should be the full amount of the recreation budget with those funds coming from the recreation account.
say that, say that one more time,
So somehow when we list the funds that we're going to use, we're not going to list 8557 for conservation parks and rec. That was the revenue this year,
yeah,
but because that's revenue going into a restricted or
yeah,
whatever account,
yeah,
the amount we want to use from that account is whatever the
57,
budget
50.
is for recreation for this year, the $9,000
right,
dollars.
right.
So we got to figure out.
Then
how to
raise the rest if we don't
No,
have
there's
it.
nothing else to raise. It pays for the whole
Pays
budget.
for the whole, yeah, okay.
5750.
You might not have the latest, if, that shouldn't have changed though, let me go back.
5,000 in the Memorial Day parade was 750.
5750 for recreation, yep.
Yep.
So there's enough to pay,
well, typically we paid for the whole,
right, because you combine these.
yeah, into a conservation recreation.
This one was a little,
Oh,
yeah.
around. So you're talking about the 9380 that should take it all out of recreation?
So maybe it's 7,880. Is that the total?
Yes.
Well,
So you had revenue of what?
I'm thinking 9,380 is.
well, it was, but didn't we just take out 1,500?
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
We just took out.
Oh,
And we raised.
So did we take that all the way to zero, or did we leave some money in there?
I just got for the 15.
Because the actual last year was 490 at River Park.
Where is the river?
It was right there.
That was right here.
Yeah.
But you can take it out of reserve fund. But we have,
For the sign, but this looks like there was other maintenance stuff last year. That's what that 490 number is.
right, and like in the restricted funds, which is what this is, there seems to be 7935 in the.
I just don't know. I don't know what restrictions are on that fund. I don't know if it can be used for regular maintenance or if it has to be something.
No. I wouldn't, I don't know either.
I can't think of anything you would have spent money over there for. I know I give you, when I buy toilet paper and we have to pay I would have it sit around.
Who mows it?
I give you, we do.
So something was posted against it, right? Because we've got an actual up
I see
there.
it, but I'm just wondering if that wasn't supposed to go to Runaround Park and inadvertently got put in, because
I'd have to run the account to see what actually got paid.
we don't have a toilet at River Park.
Runaround, and I'm wondering if some of those bills maybe didn't inadvertently get put on that park, but I know we didn't submit any bills.
I can add 500 in just to,
Well, there is a light bill, there is a.
It's on there.
He's got that separate though.
yeah.
Well, I'd actually leave it zero, and then if
Did we,
we need to
did we
find-
contribute something and buy something for when they did a Boy Scout project over there?
did they do one at River Park? They did one at Runaround Pond.
I know they did one at they did two actually at Runaround Pond. Didn't they do one
They
at,
did, right, the fence and the gazebo picnic table.
over at River Park?
At
Yeah.
River Park.
Yeah, I don't remember anything at River Park.
What was it?
Roof over.
At River Park, they did one, and at Runaround Park.
Yeah.
The last one was at River Park.
Last one was at River Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One prior to that was there, and then prior to that was, I think Nathan Abbott or somebody did the guardrail going along the rocks that he put
Yeah.
inside the pond.
And Adam Chamberlain did Runaround Pond.
Yep. and
Who
then,
did River Park?
Some Eagle Scouts project.
It was last year. I can't remember.
Wow, I don't remember that at all.
Came out very nice.
So Hunter?
Well, that goes
No.
back a ways. Hunter did Memorial,
He did the flag
the
thing.
park, the
pavement
walkway,
thing,
the
that's right.
tables.
That's right.
Did anybody work on the rock wall?
Hope not.
Somebody's got to know, because it's all falling down.
Don't worry about it. We're on it.
That just makes it more authentic.
So leave it
Well, it
zero
was
and we'll.
before, so.
Yeah,
It does need a new sign, that's for
I'd
sure.
leave it at zero.
For River Park? Yeah. We got plenty of money in that account.
Yeah, in this one, yeah.
But you
It's
should-
just, we don't know what if it's restricted to spend on, but we'll, you know.
I would hope we restricted to send on River
Recreation.
Park, but I mean, what, that wouldn't make sense.
We don't, well, or if it's restricted to capital versus operating and stuff.
Okay.
This gets a little long. Up at 5. Yeah. This gets-
Okay, so are we get, I think tonight, we're gonna have to,
Usually don't have like a.
we're gonna get close on the tax impact estimate, but we're gonna have to work through the fund thing
Okay.
and apply that. We might need to do that Friday or something like that.
Okay. Want me to just buzz through the others? There, we still have a few
Yeah.
more.
Yeah,
Okay, telecom. Uh, So the difference here is the meeting secretary and the public information officer proposing 25 there. If you look at the history, if I unhide it, it was always right up around 20,000 anyway.
Yep.
And that extra $5,000 is also coming off of other lines, right?
Yeah, so if they help with the window, it's coming off this line.
But it's coming out of other, well,
That's their budget.
But there was lines and some of like planning and some others had meeting secretary.
right, meeting.
Right,
and
so-
administration-
Exactly,
administration is
exactly.
3,500.
Right, that's exactly right. So
So it looks like an increase here, but it's really.
it's really a decrease. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or break even, yeah.
Right.
Don't free lunch, Mike.
In government speak, a lower increase is a decrease.
That's what they tell us every day, right? That's right up there, buddy. That's like the one that the government was designed to be inefficient. I had somebody tell us that one time too.
So
Board was designed to be inefficient.
the 1055, this channel access, I mean, I guess we're considering stopping this. I don't,
Are we considering?
Well, we have some homework to do on that, right? I mean,
I don't, how are we gonna find out like who's watching it or?
we don't know. I mean, we need to talk to Comcast or whoever. We need to find out if we're legally obligated to keep it. I don't think we are because I think Freeport got rid of their channel. We just need to, because it's tied up in the franchise agreement, and so there's some due diligence to be done with Comcast to see, look, if we wanted to stop the access channel, what one can we, what's involved, yada, yada, yada. But I think you leave it in the budget for now.
Right, and did we have an obligation to leave it up there as well? As a town?
We don't know yet. That's
You mean like
Who uses it?
a legal obligation, or do you think?
Like from a,
no, I don't think we have.
I don't
It's
think
just whether or
so.
not we have an obligation. to
right,
it.
obligation under the contract, okay, okay, good, keep going.
Every town.
And everything else is pretty the same. What I did though was there was an email expense, and then there's a service expense. Our data defined or BEK, the people that does our high level IT stuff, same company. So I just combined them rather than having. I mean, it's on the same bill. So what I did was I just zeroed out the emails and added it down here to the service and emails. So that's why when you see that 46%, it's not really there. And everything else is pretty much flat all the way right down.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So most of the upper is that top line item.
It is
Right there, okay.
this one. It is, but
I mean, that's,
this was scattered out throughout the.
no, I get that part, but this, in the explanation of why it's 13.7%, it's because we pulled the money in from the other areas, put it in this line.
Right.
That one went up, that's what drove this up, so it's
Right.
really not that much of an increase
Right.
when you look at it.
Yeah, because of the way this is set up in the budgets, the percentages really get skewed. They really do.
It's telecom.
Yeah. So planning, planning is for the most part. See, I took the meeting secretary right out. This was one place where I did take it out. Pretty much everything, if you look right down, is pretty much flat. There's really not a lot of increases. Now, what I did do down here, it was brought to my attention, that the Historic Preservation Commission request money. They actually have some money. They have $1,330. They requested 3,200, so I put in 2,000 to give them the 3,200 they requested this year. If they use the money that's already in the fund balance for.
What's it for?
It's for outreach, training, and some clerical mailings and postage and that sort of thing.
Like history lessons?
Yeah.
Historical
Kind
preservation.
of. Bringing,
Just asking. I mean, I'm just trying.
bringing people in to talk about
Oh.
the importance of historical
education.
building. Right, education,
Okay, gotcha.
education and outreach, yeah. So the large ink, I did add 400 today because we got that ink cartridge that goes in that new scan is $400.
So they get you, buddy. It's always on you.
Yeah.
So I just added.
Make you a hell of a
so that
deal on
was-
this printer.
It was 300, but I added another 400 to it, so that line went up to 700. Yeah. Everything else is pretty much the same.
It's the old
We're
Henry
still-
Ford approach.
We're still a
Everybody's
negative.
car, They gotta buy gas from me.
Negative in the bottom line. Eureka. It is what it is. There's not a lot. It's mostly FICA, Medicare, electric bills, all pretty flat. Maintenance and repairs, I put at 2,500. I know there's some work to be done over there. Supplies, I kept the same. I went up with the janitorial wages. I figure if it's getting used more, it's probably gonna need to be cleaned more. I don't know how much. I don't have that crystal ball, but I did add, essentially another. I don't know why the budget was 200 in the way it was, but they actually spent 1,000, so I bumped it up to 1,500.
I don't want to get into a long drawn out, but I mean, a couple of years ago, we replaced the heating system in there and went to electricity, and that just seems extremely cheap to heat and include lights for that place for the year.
The 2,000,
$200 a month to heat that place is not the most insulated,
right?
efficient place I've ever seen in my life. But hey, if it's working, it's working. I mean,
I don't think it gets used a whole lot
but
though.
the heat does.
Heat's
Yeah.
on.
I mean, it's always on, but
Yeah.
that just seems incredible, and I'm glad we did it. I mean, that works out because I think we were spending that in
Yeah.
propane alone.
And that really concludes the budget for the most
So
part.
did you, any updates you made here, did you also update the article totals on the tax impact document?
Before I got here, but the adjustments that I made tonight, I haven't adjusted in the tax,
Okay,
which we'll have
so
to do.
let's go through, because really I think we've already done the capital, where everybody was
Yeah.
there. So I think we need to go through, so where does this put us? Make sure that we're all on the same page with what the article totals are.
Yep.
Um,
So what we'll have to do is I'll have to minimize this, move this over. Get this over here. Oh, it's gonna go away on me. Let me get this where I need it here. All right. Bear with me for a second while I get this set up. It's just gonna take a little bit. Because I need to be able to see everything. It's a small.
do you know how to snap the windows? Can I drive for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Jesus.
All for the games.
Okay, so you can,
I can still get to this and
get to what?
Yes.
Yeah, so now you've got a split screen.
Yeah,
So you
nice.
can, so where did we take, where was that? In recreation, we lowered that one, right?
yeah, it should be all added up if we go down. So the 550, if you look up here, the 559.15 is correct.
Yeah. We didn't touch animal control. We didn't touch assessing. We didn't touch cemeteries, conservation, parks and rec, I think we touched.
the only ones that were up.
It was that one that, because it's now
Yeah,
at
the
7,880.
1,580.
So
We
this
took
is,
it, yeah.
yeah, so this is gonna be down to 7,880. Um,
We didn't touch Eureka, did we?
I don't believe so, no.
We didn't touch general fire. Should be 522470.
Let's just,
Yeah.
let's just double check.
Planning, that should be 46,420. Public Works, we didn't touch. Solid Waste, we didn't touch.
46,420.
Bulky Waste Day is a separate line. It's not on here, but it's 12,000. Telecommunications, what is that at? I have 52 even. That's what I have. Okay. All right. And then we
Budget 52,000.
have the debt in there.
So Eureka,
Hmm.
6. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Yep. Okay.
Telecommunications,
So make
52,000.
maximize the right, yeah, and go to the tax impact
It's got the,
section.
it's got the secretarial duties. You need to-
Oh. Okay.
So it's really the upper.
Undesignated funds.
Yes.
What do you?
So there's two ways we can kind of carve this out. So the government auditing standard says that you should be somewhere around 16% of your budget or 2 months worth of expenditures. One of those two. I kind of like the 16, 17%. I think that's probably a good number.
And
We're like 19% now, I think, somewhere in that ballpark,
so
at least in 2021.
right. So I did a little. We had 137,000 and change of funds, unexpended funds that lapsed into undesignated this year. The number I put in based on what you had told me before, Jerry, the number I put in on the tax impact to use from undesignated was 200,000.
Okay. So one more time, just, I mean,
Was
use,
I'm asking like, so what is like, so you said the undesignated fund balance right
yeah,
now
right here it
is
is.
basically 2.4 million.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we used 200,000 to offset raising taxes, so that leaves you at 2.2 million.
Yeah.
Is that still within the comfort zone of,
I would think that would be fine. Where does that fall percentage wise with our budget?
what do you mean percentage of what?
Of our budget, like the 4 million. Because the government audit standard says about 16% of your budget should be set aside for undesignated.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. So,
But I'm not, but still being,
the total municipal,
I don't have my
right now, the total municipal assessment, if we used 200,000 in, of the budget, not the assessment, right? Okay, so the budget, total budget is like 4.4. Why is my number different there? Just under 4.5 million. So. Come on, calculator. Well, 2.2 million that can't be right. 2.2 million is almost 50%.
50%, right. I can go get the what she gave us, that was that first handout that she gave us.
But didn't that number that's all undesignated, that doesn't include like reserves?
I don't. Maybe the whole budget, yeah, not the operating budget, but the whole budget.
We need to know that, is there anything in this undesignated number you're giving me?
Well, this is what's in Trio, yeah. This is what
So
we,
there's, but
this
is
what we
there,
have.
is that truly undesignated? That there's not like, reserves in there that just haven't, that are, no, the reserves are in other lines, right?
Right.
I can't.
And if you look at the, you're right. I mean, you're right, because that's like,
Well, actually, hold on a second. Well, yeah.
so the unassigned, undesignated, same thing. She has at 1.9 million right now.
Not restricted or assigned.
I'll go grab some.
What part did I miss?
Just trying to figure out how much is in the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah, but well, I guess
And if it's
if his number's right,
that it's 2 million.
yeah, that it's over 2 million.
Yeah.
That just seems
No one's going to let
really
you.
high.
No one's going to let the two of you
Previous
resign.
years, I would ask for an updated list of, what each year, and we were up to, we'd gotten up to it maybe 17% once, and then when it was back down to like 14%. So you're right. I mean, this is representing 50%.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Unless I'm using the wrong base. Unless it's
Let me just minimize this for a second and I'll go grab something real quick.
Do you want to not be sharing that with everybody?
What's that?
Whatever's on the screen.
Oh, there's not much there really.
We still on?
What's that?
Is the camera still on?
Yeah.
yeah, we're
So
still
live.
we're still at a meeting.
So this is the new one. So let me get rid of that one. This was some. Down here to a different one. Because I'm pretty sure that that's.
I understand what you were saying. There's a bunch of chefs. How to do this. So when it all works. I understand.
Right here. Let me blow this up for you. I can't recommends approximately 2 months of expenditures, about 16% of the budget.
That must be the total budget,
Yeah.
including school, county, everything.
Yeah. I'm not.
So the okay, this might make more sense. The total budget,
It's like 9,
that's 8. It's around 8 million. And if you were
16%.
if you were, well, I would just say if 2.2 million is a little over 20 something percent of that, and it would fall in line with the progression there. It's even a bigger increase in 22. I mean,
19%.
it was 19% in 21. And if we're going off total budget, which probably makes more sense, then we're at, then it's in, 2.2 was, over 25%. So let's go.
Got a pretty healthy undesignated.
Yeah, but
balance.
I would not want to.
These two look affiliate.
Yeah, and Milton, I think while you were out of the room, I think I was using the wrong base. I think looking at those numbers, she must be calculating off the total budget, so including school, county, everything. And that makes a bit more sense because the total budget is around $8 million all in, which would make what he's in unassigned about a little over 25%. Still, that's still pretty high. I would be hesitant to get too aggressive with unassigned funds though, because especially since we really need another year to
Flush this
get
out.
shit in order,
Exactly.
right? But
With that amount, we should not need to take out that loan.
well, it's a cash flow, it's a timing issue,
Yeah.
it's the loan. But I think that's a good point. I think
You have to go to a special meeting to go get it, right?
not for
For 10?
the board has to approve it.
Okay.
But it doesn't require a special meeting. So anyway, we can more than comfortably use the 200,000 that
Absolutely.
I'm
You
suggesting. And that in the worksheet, it works out to, like a 3 estimated total all in, including if school goes up 3% and county goes up 3%, basically a little over 3% tax increase, but we know that that's just an estimate because we don't have the updated valuation number and all that other stuff.
Right.
If anything, the estimate on this thing is usually, the reality usually ends up coming a little bit under the estimate because of an increase in valuation. That changes the equation. But we don't know school yet. Do we know county yet?
No, I
Did you
haven't,
get that?
no, I haven't gotten that. I'll give them a shout.
So my suggestion of the numbers I worked would be to use 200,000 in undesignated funds to offset taxes. And I think that's going to get us in essentially a flat, maybe even, who knows, maybe even down a little bit, depending on what happens with valuation. So
I get 2 houses that'll be on the tax roll before then, so.
Todd's doing his
But
part.
it's good to know though, that, because
see that?
I learned this in talking with the 16% in the 2 months of expenditures that you should have tucked aside.
Yeah.
That's good to know, and you're well above it. I mean,
And you know what,
Which is
given
good.
the structure of our fiscal year and the timing of our tax revenues, having a higher percentage on hand is probably not a bad thing. Like to Milt's point about it reduces the need for TAN, either how soon you have to take it or how much you need to take, right?
Do we know exactly how much money went back?
Yeah, that was the number I had earlier, Milt. I did it, and I think it was I went through the articles and basically just off the operating sheets, and I think it was like $137,287 went from various budgets, unspent funds that rolled back in. So basically what I was thinking was that, and then another 8,000 rolled back into dedicated accounts like conservation, telecom, and Eureka. My thought process was that we should use at least the amount of undesignated funds that rolled back in.
Yeah.
And then I think we obviously have, and then some more, so that's where I came up with the 200,000 figure.
the idea of having that healthy undesignated balance and not having to get a TAN, it's the cash you have in the bank that kind of dictates
Yeah,
that.
right, exactly, right. It's a different.
So I don't want people to think, oh, because of that, we don't have to do that. No, this is all has to do with what we have for cash on hand
Right.
during June.
And
That's-
like I said, I would not feel comfortable being too aggressive with those funds because we're gonna. This town went through a period of time where it definitely tapped into undesignated too
Much,
deeply,
yeah.
and then for years, we were not tapped. We didn't have undesignated funds to help offset taxes. At the same time, we were adding a significant amount of debt, like bonds and stuff, and that had a pretty sharp upward pressure on taxes that, that people still have nightmares about. And then throw in a revaluation in there too in 2010, and some people saw like big time increases. But
So does the number you're using though doesn't include any money for the assessing or public works reserve account, correct?
yeah, it does.
Because those were both zero.
Those would be raised. That money gets raised. They're zero, not funded from capital reserves.
Right.
But they're on the expenditure line, so that they go into they get added into what needs to be raised.
Was there a number in there? Or
Which one would you want to look at?
Go to that one. So you can look for all of the budget articles.
was there a number in there? Was I just missing something when you're going over?
A number in there for what? For how it's funded?
For the reserve amount.
Yeah. Scroll down to capital. So you can see what row. Yeah, that
Oh,
row.
Okay, I was looking in the wrong column.
Yes, in the expenditure column. Yeah. The expenditure column is where it's that's where basically anything in the expenditure column, you say, okay, this is how much we're going to raise. Then we start subtracting stuff. Okay, what are you using from reserves? That lowers the amount you need to raise. What are you using for ARPA?
What are you using from undesignated? What are you using for revenues? You know, and then what's left that's not covered by any of that stuff is what you raise. So that's how the spreadsheet is built. And then when you click over to the tax impact tab, if you put in that green cell,
Where's it up here?
nope, right in row F, yeah, right there, put 200,000 in there. All right, hit enter. And then so scroll down. So you can see that 20.62 estimated. It's showing that as a 3.6% increase over last year, even though the current mill rate is not 19.88, it's 20.70.
Right.
It's a funkiness in the calculation because of the change of base of the valuation as you're estimating the future year. But basically, so what this is saying is that, you know, given that valuation number, you know, the budget last year, what we spent and how we funded it, and the difference this year, what we're going to spend and how we fund it, is an all-in estimated 3.6% increase. If you scroll up a little bit, let's see, and then operating budget. And on the municipal side, it's 1.3%. Because you can see, if you scroll up, so that first number, yeah, keep going down that column, that in the first gray. So that's the operating budget. So that's, you know, not everything that's not capital. That's a 1.9%. Capital expenditures actually show a decrease, but that's because of the ARPA funds, which increases the reserves being used. And then the all-in operating and capital together is on the municipal side, you're looking at a 1.3% tax increase. And the total is 3.6. And that's all, the only reason that says that right now is because, you know, schools, you know, 70-ish% of the budget. And we just are, they don't even present their budget until next week. So we're estimating 3% increase. So that's the same thing for county. So that's what's kind of driving that, you know. So that number could change a lot if it's not 3%.
Right.
So
Municipal was less.
So overall, you know, and then the other thing I would add, you see the levy limit thing there. We also calculate, okay, for the amount towards the bottom in red. Yeah. So basically, we compare what the total municipal assessment would need to be compared to the levy limit for the municipal assessment. And right now, we're over $300,000 under the levy limit.
It's a key word in this town, some weeks.
Yeah.
It'll come up.
So overall, the bottom number, we're looking pretty good.
We're looking freaking awesome.
Right.
And the reason aside from your astute budget building,
Well,
the reason is ARPA funds and using 200 grand in undesignated. I mean, those.
You still have money.
Are we raising money to put into capital reserves?
For public works and for assessing, yes.
No, for anything in fire.
There's no request this year.
And what are we putting for public works?
100.
In the 61st.
Yep.
Is it too late for him to?
Fire has a robust 280 roughly in there already.
I will tell you what it is.
What's that?
They'll get you a new frame for a dump truck.
221.
Well, we're gonna spend some of it. We're gonna spend about 90 of it. Yeah.
92.8.
We have much more to go over because I got a pretty early date tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just past 10.
Yeah, no, you're right. Good call. So basically, as we scroll, can you go back to the budget?
Yeah.
So we were okay on capital. Scroll up. Are you guys okay with all the where we landed on all the individual articles as far as our recommendation and how they're shown on this? Okay, that's really what we need tonight to turn over to the budget committee. But I think Jerry and I have some work to do to clarify revenues and assigned funds and how they're being applied to the budget. It's not going to materially change anything. It's more about
Explanation.
having it be clear.
Right.
And probably I got some work to do just to show the actual increase and then the administration versus what the spreadsheet's actually showing, because those percentages.
Yeah, like what's the
it's
new-
gonna-
what's
it's
the
gonna
new
freak
spending?
people out. What's the new
Yeah.
spending?
All right.
That's pretty simple to put together, really. But I'm gonna need your help on the whole employee hours and this. You show me
Yeah, I can show you that.
how
When
you
you-
how you figure that,
Yep.
and I'll be more than happy to work on that and put it together.
It's not
Absolutely.
that hard. We can talk tomorrow
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah, sure. No, this has been really good.
Terry, in the future, these meetings, budget, that's it on the agenda.
Yeah.
You don't typically do a full schedule, and I granted it wasn't a huge agenda, but this is the primary and the only thing.
Okay.
So not everybody's here until 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Let's-
Or some food and snacks from local vendors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we have.
Do we have any local vendors?
Didn't go close, but close at 8.
Get the food truck up there.
Milt, thanks for sticking it out with us. I hope that'll prove helpful in your own meetings.
Yep.
All right. Oh, we gotta officially adjourn, huh? Is there a motion?
Yep.
Rich moves adjournment.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you, Devin.
You're gonna be sending.
I'll send you the